Everyone. Good to see you all again. Welcome December 9th, 2020. Welcome to the Downtown Action Committee hearing. And if we could please, Stacy or Hope, start with a roll call and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Roger Jansen.
Present.
Nick Mihilich.
Present.
Ryan Checkis.
Present.
Stephen Graham.
Present.
Michael Cuevas.
Present.
Brad McPherson. Let the record reflect that Brad McPherson is not present. Johnny Lee Dizon.
Present.
Gregory Gabriel.
Present.
It sounds like that would make a quorum or a good shape there. I guess we could, we're doing the Pledge of Allegiance, Anna Maria?
Yes.
Okay. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America,
And to the
To the
republic.
republic for which it stands,
the republic
One
on which it
nation,
stands,
under
one nation under God, indivisible,
Liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
Wow. Okay, that's a challenge, but nice. That was very good.
We're not going to tour as an a cappella group, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll all keep our day jobs. So item 2 would be approval of minutes and from the October 14th meeting. Does anyone have any comments or would like to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes from October 14th, 2020 are approved.
Aye.
Item 3, report from urban designer, Ms. Aponte.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a long report today due to the end of the year and the award. So in keeping the time that we have with you, we would like to move that to the end of the agenda, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah, that's great. And I should be okay with time, but just in case, that would be fantastic. So we'll move item 2 until after the cases. Perfect. And I'll do the same. I'll hold any remarks until later. So item 5 would be declaration of ex parte communication. Has anyone on the board had any communications regarding either of today's cases to declare?
None.
I do. Mr. Chair, I had communications with the applicant for case DAC 2008. I spoke with Mr. Joe Verdone. Won't have any impact on my decision made today.
Okay, so noted. Thanks, Brian. Michael Cuevas, any ex parte? I guess none from Michael. Stephen Graham, any ex parte?
No.
Not Nick Milich?
No.
No. John Ali?
None.
No. Gregory?
None, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I had one brief discussion with staff regarding DAC case 20-08, and it was just really questions to review some alternate proposals for the building facades, and it will not hinder my ability to judge today based on today's testimony. So we'll move forward to item 5, item 6, public hearing portion. Would anyone that will be presenting testimony please raise your hand and be sworn in by staff at this time?
So Roger, I think they need to bring in the participants for the first case, and then we swear them in for each case. So I think
For
John
each
needs
case.
to bring them in. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're in a waiting room until they have the opportunity.
Okay,
to
with each
present.
case, perfect. Yep, you're right. I knew that. Anna Maria, were we going to do item 20-08 first? Do we need to make a motion to rearrange the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, staff is requesting to rearrange the agenda and have the board heard first Downtown Action Committee 20-08.
Okay. Do we need to vote on that, or is,
Yes, you need to vote on that, please.
okay, can someone, go ahead, Brian.
Motion to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, good. Motion is approved. So good, we'll go ahead and start. We'll do the swearing in for each case and follow all the standard protocol. So let's just move right into today's cases. So we'll start with DAC case 20-08, request by Joe Verdone of Carlton Fields. on behalf of the 350 Development LLC for special review and variance items to be discussed by the applicant.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, did you need the script?
You know what? I do not have the, for the, I don't have it with me.
Okay. I can read that real quick if you would like.
If you would, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Pursuant to Executive Order Number 20-69, issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, and Mayor Keith A. James's Executive Order Number 2020-05, issued on April 2nd, 2020, the City of West Palm Beach's boards and committees are conducting meetings through media technology and have released the requirements to have a quorum of its members physically present at City Hall. On April 14, 2020, Mayor Keith A. James issued Executive Order 2020-09, which specifically provides the rules of procedure for conducting city meetings, including requirements for quasi-judicial hearings. The members of this board appearing remotely are here presently to ensure the ability for the public to continue to participate in this meeting.
Somebody needs to mute. Okay.
To ensure the ability for the public to continue to participate in this meeting, it is being streamed live and available for viewing in the City Commission chambers located at City Center, 401 Clematis Street, provided that social distancing is required. Additionally, for those wishing to access the meeting remotely, they are able to do so directly through the applicable Zoom webinar link, as well as the city's usual media channels, including WPB-TV 18, the city's website, and the city's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter feeds. Anyone from the public who would like to provide comment on an agenda item is able to do so through the following: in the City Center Flagler Gallery, dialing 561-320-6599, and leaving a voicemail not to exceed 3 minutes. Sending an email or video recording to DAC, public comment at WPB.org, or completing the online public comment form at www.wpb.org/public comments. Those accessing the meeting directly through Zoom may also use the chat or raise hand features. Anyone using only their phone may raise their hand by pressing *9. Regardless of method, please be sure to indicate the agenda number or case number for which you are providing comment. Everyone providing testimony this morning must have video capability and will need to be sworn in. We will do so at the start of each case on the agenda. If you're about to provide testimony and were not sworn in, please be sure to indicate such and be sworn in accordingly. After the applicant presents their case, staff will provide a presentation, and then the public will have an opportunity to speak or have their comments read into the record from previously received correspondence. Finally, the board will go into executive session. Prior to rendering a decision, the board will confirm no additional public comments have been received by staff.
Okay. Thank you, Hope, for helping me out there. Appreciate it. So there we go. We'll go ahead and move into case 20-08. Is the applicant prepared?
This is Liz Levesque, Urban
Oh,
Design
hey, Liz.
Planner. I'm just going to do a quick introduction before we go into the applicant's presentation.
Liz, before you start, can I swear everyone in for the
yes,
item?
sorry.
Sure. If you're going to speak on this agenda item, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. So good morning. This is DAC case 2008 for special review and variance review for 350 South Australian Residential Tower. It's a request by Joe Verdone of Carlton Fields on behalf of 350 Development for the DAC approval of special review and 2 variances, those being a variance for the minimum side interior setback for ground floor and podium, and a variance for the minimum side interior setback above the 7th floor. And I just wanted to do a quick introduction to clarify. The public open space is part of the recommendation for approval. Staff does have recommendations for modifications. And we are recommending that it be brought back to the DAC board at a later date with incorporation of the public art component. The reason I'm clarifying this, there was a sentence in the staff report under this response to special review criteria D that said the public open space is not being considered as part of the DAC application and will require a separate application for review in compliance with special review criteria. This remained erroneously, and I apologize for that, for any confusion. Our original recommendation at the time of writing this first staff report was for continuance, and as the project has evolved over the last couple weeks, staff is now recommending approval. That sentence should have been removed or modified. So I just wanted to clarify that we are talking about the public open space subject to conditions and future review with art in public places. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, and then I will continue my presentation after they are done. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joe Verdone. First of all, can we have control can Alfonso Gerardo have control over our PowerPoint at this point? And share screen. My name is Joe Verdone, and I'm with the law firm of Carlton Fields. I'm here representing 350 LLC for a new special DAC approval for a new condominium, a 17-story building, 426 units that will front Clearwater Drive. It was, give you a little background, this was originally part of a downtown plan development that was subsequently rezoned to be brought into the old master plan, which was a type 4 building designation. The property had to get a special DAC approval back then because of it was designated as a special vista, which all the properties along Australian Avenue, along Clear Lake had a special vista designation. And it required the special DAC approval consistent with what we're doing today. But at that time, the main emphasis was that there would be a special landscape area along Australian Avenue, as well as a pedestrian walkway. That was the primary just of the old special DAC approval. The Edge was approved as a type 4 building with 2 phases. The first phase was built and developed, and subsequently the future development phase was sold off. It is not, the subsequent phase is part of the overall master association with some declarant rights, but otherwise it has separate access easements and separate agreements for the open space, but is not connected to the overall condominium association of the Edge 1. The purpose of the application today is to build a new separate project that will act independently from the original phase 1 development. And that's what we're here today to seek the special DAC approval now from the downtown master plan, which requires any site over 50,000 square feet to seek a special DAC approval because of the significance of the size of the project. Alfonso, if you could pull up our screen or our PowerPoint.
Alfonso, you're muted, but you should have the capability to share your screen. If there's any issues, I have a copy of your presentation I can pull up. You're still muted.
It might take a few minutes to load. While that's loading, let me just talk about a few things. We're now in the CLD 25 subdistrict, and the subdistrict has some significant characteristics. It requires building amenities and entrances to be located on the ground floor of Clearwater Drive. It provides for active uses to be provided along the open spaces in Clearwater Drive. It requires that a pedestrian pathway is along all active uses. It provides for pathways to be provided to facilitate connections to all the adjacent properties. It requires that you have variations in building height to promote a diverse skyline. And it also requires that the building power elements be orientated towards Clearwater Drive. This is an idea that is trying to redesignate this neighborhood as to be more pedestrian friendly and move away from the old style of planned developments with large giant lots. It also requires a generous amount of terraces and balconies. Are we able to get that?
I'm seeing it on my screen, but I don't know if it's showing on the,
It's not, you have to hit the green share screen at the bottom.
all right,
And failing that, Joe, Liz can put it up and then you guys can just ask her to advance the slides if you
hang on a
can't
quick
get it.
second. I don't know why it's not coming up.
I'll share, no problem.
Yeah, go ahead, because
Let me go to
We're on slide 3.
full screen. Okay. Is this 3?
All right.
One more?
Go back one, please. Oh, that's it. I'm sorry. Go back. Go ahead. Okay. So the special DAC review requires 4 different standards to be met. That's the relationship of the building to the site and the surroundings. The building scale is consistent with the existing structures around it. The plan proposes the reconstruction of all conflicting utilities and pedestrian walkways and streetscape to improve them to meet the current code. The quantitative requirements of section 94-109, as well as the CLD 25 subdistricts have been met and been demonstrated in the plans. Can you go to the next slide, please? Circulation and traffic flow is another item that's required. The development promotes pedestrian circulation. The vehicular circulation is efficient. It was previously approved and is unchanged. The vehicular circulation does not detract from the active uses that are occurring on site. And if we can move to the next stage. Next. Building design. The adjacent buildings have been considered when developing the proposed design, and our architects will go through that and show you what they've done to incorporate from the adjacent buildings and the structures and style and scales and bulk and proportions that they have. The structures abutting the open space will maintain their own unique identity, so each will read as a separate standalone project. This is done to break up the super block that we have there. The design elements have been incorporated in the proposed building to ensure a cohesive and compatible design. And we'll go through that more in detail as we show you the architectural plans. The active uses abutting the open space perimeter and Clearwater Drive have been added to help activate the district. And the open space design enhancements doubles the amount of usable open space provided. Basically, we're required to have 10,082 square feet, and we're providing 20,282 square feet of open space. And then finally, the public realm, which is a really important part of this approval, and what we're trying to achieve in the improvement from the previous plan is that we're doubling the amount of active uses along Clearwater Drive. The code requires only 30%. We're providing nearly 75%. The development plan further activates the open space by removing a previously approved drainage spill that would have segregated it from the building's frontage, and has relocated those drainage features underground below a formal lawn area. The open space has been upgraded to provide design elements, seating, and shading area throughout all of the required spaces. The reimagined open space further is enhanced by placing those open drainage swells underground and creating that new bonus lawn area that can be used for a variety of uses and activities. And the public realm is also being enhanced by relocating all the existing conflicting underground utilities that exist within the street and along the property line, moving the previous landscape buffer to the street, making it a standard streetscape consistent with the new DMP regulations. And then finally, the coordination with phase 1. We've been working closely with our neighbors to address some of their issues, and some of the things that were important to them was separating the structures, addressing their trash staging needs, providing additional at-grade parkings for the delivery and maintenance vehicles. Their garage does not allow tall trucks to get in, so it's been a real problem for them as far as having delivery vehicles and workers coming to the building not having a place to park. So we were kind of solving that problem for them. We've redirected the main entrance to the proposed building, so it comes from Clearwater Drive, which is also consistent with the sub-district requirements. We've improved the open space consistent with the current code. We are reconstructing the drainage features and creating that new formal lawn area to create a bonus area. And then we've also provided a separate dog park on the south side of the building to provide more programming and also to take the pet demand off of the open spaces provided for the rest of the everybody within the area. I'm going to turn this over now to our architect of record, Alfonso Gerardo of CLA Design, and he'll run through the architecture and where we are with staff. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Liz, can I try to take over the screen again? I'm gonna hit share. Is that gonna work?
Should now because I stopped sharing.
All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Hang on a second. A while now. I don't know why it's not going forward. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Good morning. My name is Alfonso Jurado. I'm with CLAD. And we're the architects for the project. As Joe has started to mention, oh, what's it doing now? There's a delay with the controls, and now I pressed it too many times. It's gone forward too far. Hang on. Okay. Okay, so we're looking at the ground floor plan now. Jesus Christ. Oh. Okay, hopefully it stays there. So Joe's mentioning, oh, Christ. Okay, all right. But Joe's mentioning, we've worked with the neighbor, with the Edge One Condo Association, to one of their main concerns, which the amount of traffic that would be generated by having both projects accessing the site from the same spot, from the current driveway. So what we did is we created an internal driveway for our project. We will still use their driveway for certain people that come in, maybe from Australian, but the bulk of our traffic is going to come in from Clearwater, drop off, or go up into the garage. We foresee that maybe some of the people that drop off will want to exit this way. It'd be easier to turn around and just exit that way. Our loading is internal, and as Joe had mentioned, we are providing them a space for to accommodate their loading in between the buildings in this driveway, as they have an issue with height in their garage. The service vehicles will enter through the main driveway and then exit out. Well, the service vehicles and the trash, let's say, will enter through the main driveway and then exit out on a one-way drive, service drive, out to Clearwater. We foresee our trucks coming in from our main entrance and then maneuvering into the loading dock. On the ground floor, we have retail spaces that activate both Clearwater Drive and the proposed green space. Our lobby, again, also opens into the proposed green space. So there's sort of a flow through effect where when you drop off, as you drop off, you can see through into the greens, into the new green area. And then some of our other building services like management offices and mail and package are tucked away in the back here. We have bicycle storage provided for the residents, interior bicycle storage provided for the residents, as well as some spaces out in the front of the green space for bicycle sharing parking. Let's go into the lawn now. There we go. So the existing open space that was, well, the space that exists now has dry retention areas on either side, which, you know, from time to time will flood and become unusable. As it is now, even when they're dry, they're hard to use because they're depressed, and you don't see that many people going in there. So what we're proposing to do is create underground storage areas for the to handle the drainage, and then free up the space to create a lawn that the residents can use for activities, for meetings and outdoor events. And we're addressing the requirement for the public open space, not only for our project, but additionally for the phase one edge, with a new park that encompasses hardscapes mixed in with shade trees. We're maintaining the existing, all these trees you see here are mature oaks that are there right now. We're maintaining that existing canopy so it provides shade they want. And we're detailing the park and providing varieties of plantings to make it a space that's pleasant to be in. There's seating along the edges here. We're proposing a seat wall along the edge here and along this edge over here. There's also some existing backflow preventers and things of that nature that are being handled in this area here. We're screening them with some low plantings to make them a little bit more acceptable, I guess. Let's go on to the next one. This diagram just shows the required open space is compared to what was there and what we're providing. The ground floor again, we can skip that. This is a typical parking floor in the project. As Joe's saying about how we oriented the project, this is actually very similar to what the second phase that was envisioned for the Edge condo. This is how they were basically laying out their project. Their tower, you can kind of see it here, ends here. You know, it's an L shape that goes down to Australia. So we're sort of continuing that and then creating an L shape to the south, which keeps the project as far away from the edge, phase one, and limits the amount of blockage that there naturally will be because of the nature of the project, but it limits that to a great degree. So we have the parking garage. This is the second floor or the third to the seventh typical floor parking. We have units lining the parking. Unit mix is we have a lot of smaller units so that we can have affordable workforce type housing, or where the rents are not that high because the size of the units are relatively small. This is our pool deck level. We have about 4,000 square feet of amenity space that is yet to be programmed, but would exist here. We have a pool, 75 feet long to allow laps and stuff like that, swimming. And again, more units on that level. Here you can see our typical floor, and relative to the Edge 1, it maintains their views to the southeast, and it maintains as much of a separation as possible from the project, which was the intent. This is a section, a longitudinal section through the project. You can see the parking podium, which is 8 stories. We have 511 cars provided within the parking garage. The maximum height of the building is 177 feet to the roof, and then we have a projection that goes up another 12 feet. The project is 17 stories, which is consistent with what the Edge 1, the Phase 1 project has. So we're in the same, our massings are very similar in terms of the volume. And then these are some model views. These are not renderings yet. These are model views of the project that show in part the relationship to the existing Edge condominium. This is the facade that faces the park. You can see we've created a corner piece that creates a hierarchy to the corner, gives a hierarchy to the corner, breaks up the mass somewhat. We've also detailed a base in a different fashion than the rest of the tower. We've got balconies, projected balconies on the upper floors, and then on the lower levels to create this sense of a base. We're doing balconettes and a different facade treatment for the skin to articulate this base a little more clearly. This is some of the detail of the corner piece. Again, it's a play of different colors of banding of stucco around the windows, and these frames that allow a little bit of articulation in the plane, allow the plane to move back and the plane of the facade to move back and forth. You can see some of that here as well. Again, this recess allows a separation of a base. And one of the challenges that we had was the breaking up of this longer elevation on Clearwater, and we've attempted to do that by creating zones of different types of textures and finishes that delineate different parts of the building. And these are the renderings finally. You can see here the colors a little bit better. We're playing with shades of grays to create depth and articulation on the facade. Again, you can start to see here some of the active uses along the base of the building that front the park and front Clearwater. We've got about 70% of the building frontage is active use on Clearwater Drive. We've got ground floor units. We have 3 ground floor live work units on the southern end. And then we've got a block of retail sort of in the middle, and then we've got a corner retail that comes around and then fronts on the park as well. We envision that could be a cafe or something of that nature that would activate the park, and the park gives perfect opportunities for having outdoor seating for that type of use. And here you see a view from the existing drop-off as you come into the project, looking through the lawn of the park into the ground floor with the lobby right there in the middle, and then the corner retail you can't really see through the trees, but activating that park. And again, the attempt to break up the mass of the elevation by using, again, a corner element and creating 3 different zones with distinct architectural treatments to try to break up that mass. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alfonso. Staff, would you now be doing a follow-up to that?
Yes, please, Alfonso, if you could stop sharing your screen.
Thank you, Liz.
Let's see if I can.
At the top, there's a red button, so stop sharing screen.
Yeah, right there. Okay.
Great. Okay, so to pick up where we left off, Joe went into the background of this project a bit. I have some images here that I think will help to clarify that. So this was all part of the EDGE project. Originally, it was all part of the same downtown planned development, which included the One Clear Lake Center building just to the north. It included phase 1 of the EDGE building, which has been built, and that's highlighted here in blue. Phase 2, highlighted in yellow, is the subject property. And then the shared common space, which is shown here in light orange, and the shared access agreement shown in light green. And important to note is that the shared common space was built with phase 2 of the EDGE building, but it was always meant to be shared between phase 1 and phase 2. It was built with phase 1, sorry. And the common space, the shared access drive, and the access agreement, so there's a shared access drive between Clearwater and South Australian Avenue. These are all covered under the Master Association documents, which is an overarching private document which controls all of these elements. And we do have our legal team, our board attorney, has been looking through these to make sure that there's no conflicts with the proposed development for phase 2. And so far, nothing has come up. Stacy, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to give an overview on that. As mentioned, this is a 17-story residential structure, 425 units. There are live-work units at the southeast corner of the ground floor commercial, and a residential tower. This is approximately the same total square foot as the initial EDGE phase 2 approval, though there are more units through the use of smaller unit size and micro units. This table shows the total lot size. The approximate square foot of the original phase 2 development that was approved in 2004 was around 363,000 square feet. The current FAR allowed by right in CLD 25 is 7, which would allow 424,000 square feet. But the applicant is proposing around 5.77, around 351 square feet. So under the permitted FAR in that site. Just to go into the micro units are between 300 and 549 square feet. This project has 190 proposed micro units, and these micro units do require less parking. And this is part of the initiative within the downtown to help take the focus off of single-use vehicles and to focus on transit, alternative transportation, and micromobility. So the maximum parking for micro units is 0.5 space per unit. Also, with micro units, there are requirements in the code to include car share spaces, a micromobility station, bicycle parking at a rate of 0.5 per micro unit. And this is on top of what is required for the residential standard units and the commercial. And also there are requirements for bicycles within the right-of-way, bicycle racks within the right-of-way based off the total street frontage. Also, a requirement is to contribute to the trolley fee at $10 per month per unit. And again, all of this is to further enhance the mobility within the downtown. I wanted to go into the proposed public open space now. This was what I had mentioned before the applicant presented. The proposed open space is proposed within the existing open space at the northwest corner of Clearwater Drive and Access Drive. And these show some existing images of what's out there, as well as a aerial view of where that existing open space is. Now, again, because this common space was built as part of Edge Phase 1, but to serve both Edge Phase 1 and Phase 2, staff was comfortable with the applicant utilizing the space towards their own public open space requirement, subject to upgrades and requirements of current regulations for that public open space. So as Joe mentioned, there is dry retention on both areas of this public open space. Interior to the site, there is a fountain that's surrounded by gravel in a circle fashion, and then you have circular sidewalks around with benches, and that's surrounded by oleander trees. But on both sides, and shown here, you can kind of see, it's a little hard to image. And then also here is the dry retention areas. So these were the main portion of the open space that staff wanted the applicant to really focus on enhancing, because although the interior of the space, staff does believe from site visits that it is a really nice space. It provides the public with shade from the oleander trees, and it's a nice design. The exterior of that with the dry retention is not as usable, especially when it's the rainy season. This does fill with water. So the new design is incorporating underground stormwater storage to make this entire space usable, not just the interior of the space. Staff is recommending approval as said, but with conditions to ensure that the space is providing the public benefit in the same way that the current design is, just with improved drainage. So this is the open space that was included with the DAC submittal. You can see there's the multi-use lawn area in the middle, and around the edges there are paver areas. The paver areas along Clearwater Drive on the east side. There are paver areas as well along the south side, which is adjacent to the building, and this connects from Clearwater up to the existing Edge building. Within this paver area between the building and the open space, there are planter beds. There are also linear benches around this portion of the edges of the pavers. And they are proposing thatch palm trees around the perimeter. And as they mentioned, staff is very happy to say that they are preserving the oak trees along Clearwater as well as along the access drive. Now, staff is at a comfort point where we are recommending approval, but we do have conditions, and these conditions really, the biggest part of these conditions is we want to ensure that the areas around the open lawn area are able to be utilized year round. So even when there's not programming happening in this open lawn area, we want to make sure that the edges are incorporated and well designed so that the public can spend time in this public area year round. So just to go through our conditions one by one, staff would like to evaluate the addition of larger trees around the perimeter of the open lawn where the palms are proposed. We understand that there are underground utilities that we have to work around. We namely want to focus on the south side, which is the side next to the building, because we do have the preserved oak trees along the access drive. We want to focus mostly on the south side next to the building and on the west side where the circular parking spaces are. So we just want to continue evaluating that, understanding, of course, the underground storage and drainage, and try to get some larger trees, not even necessarily just for shade, but just for the aesthetics of the design. Staff would also like to provide more access from the three sides, from Clearwater Drive sidewalk on the east, from the access drive sidewalk on the north, and from the circular parking spaces on the west. These arrows are just diagrammatic. They are no indication of where staff thinks that these alternative access points should be, nor the actual size of these. But just to give an indication, just to give an illustrative example of providing more access points so they have the more pedestrians are able to access this from all sides. Staff is recommending to rearrange some of the required seating to appropriate areas around the interior of the open lawn. Recommending to look at the Clearwater Drive side where all of those pavers are, as well as the west side. Staff is also recommending to rearrange the planter beds on the north side of the building to ensure connection and interaction between the commercial space and lobby area with the public open space. So right now, highlighted here in yellow, these are planter beds. And although they are placed here because there are certain vegetation requirements for the public open space, staff would like to continue to work with the applicant on finding various placements for these, whether that be foundation landscaping or perhaps along Clearwater Drive, to have more of a connectivity between the open lawn area and the building, and again, providing more of that transition into the open lawn area. Staff, this I mentioned in the beginning, staff is recommending to refine the treatment of open lawn edge to ensure space is integrated as one single public open space, maximize use by people. And staff is recommending to consider the incorporation of AIPP requirement into the design. And this is a heavy consideration. And this is the main reason that staff is recommending that once the design is modified and once the AIPP requirement is incorporated into the design, that this be brought back to DAC at a later date with those modifications. Excuse me. And lastly, we would like to see updated renderings or exhibits that show illustrative examples of how the open lawn will be programmed, because to date, we have not had any renderings that show the open lawn area, and we really want to get a feel for how that lawn will be programmed. So going into the proposed architecture, I wanted to focus on what has been a very cooperative and ongoing discussion over the last few weeks. So at the time of DAC's submittal, this was the initial architecture submittal that was submitted on November 18th. This was the first time that staff saw colored and contextual renderings. And at this time, although we had seen exhibits, we'd seen elevations and planar breaks exhibits, this is the first time we really saw the massing along Clearwater Drive. And our concerns were at this time that the massing and the design along Clearwater did not meet the special review criteria A and C building design. So throughout the review process, staff and the applicant, we've had ongoing discussions regarding placement of proposed fenestration and the materials and the actual placement of these materials to make sure that these criteria are being met. With this original design, although there was ample fenestration throughout the facade, the placement of it, staff had concerns that the placement did not give off did not meet the intent of the planar breaks, that it really just read as a single plane. And it was a large massing. So throughout multiple iterations, and it's been a good discussion with the applicant. They're very cooperative. This is the current submittal that you're seeing today. And we are now at a comfort level where we are recommending approval. However, without sufficient times to review the elevations and the material specifications and floor plans, staff does want to keep the conditions that the applicant continue to work with staff on the exact placement and type of materials in order to make sure that we are meeting the intent of the special review criteria, and to ensure that we have a separate base, podium, and tower to provide for horizontal and vertical breaking along this massing. And we are at a comfort level now where we're recommending approval, but we do have some conditions, which I'll go over once I go over the special review criteria. So starting with special review criteria A, which is relationship of building to site and surrounding. This criteria focuses on analyzing the effects of a proposed building scale and the form on adjacent streets, neighboring properties, and overall development, and assessing to ensure any possible negative impacts are minimized. So this is an elevation, contextual elevation from the north that shows in relationship to the existing edge building. Although the proposed structure is 2 stories taller, you can see from this elevation that because of the tower elements on the edge, it's visually, it looks to be about the same height and is compatible. I also wanted to mention that the parking garage generally aligns with the edge garage. I've outlined here the parking podium, which goes from the ground level to floor 9, where the pool deck starts. And I've outlined the approximate location here on the aerial. And then I've outlined the existing edge structure parking garage. And you can see that it aligns pretty well, so that the tower of the edge, the residents that live in the tower of the edge building will be facing the tower of this proposed building, not the parking garage. This is a taller parking structure. It's nine stories, whereas the edge is 5 stories. But the overall massing in terms of width of the edge parking garage is wider. They had a larger property to work
8
with.
stories. 8 stories, not 9.
8 stories, thank you. 8 stories, because the 9th story is the pool deck, yes, thank you. Focusing on the south side, I've highlighted here on the left image, these are units that wrap around the ground floor live work, and then we have units extending up to floor 9, and then in the tower up to floor 17, and the garage is highlighted here in yellow, which I've again sketched on the aerial, just to show that the wrapping of the units is going to really help that the small portion of the parking garage is not going to be as visible from the Clearwater Drive and from the south perspective. So the purpose of discussions over the last couple of weeks with the applicant and modifications has been to address this standard. This is the contextual elevation from the east. You can see the edge building in the rear and one Clear Lake to the north on the right side there. And the purpose has been to minimize the impact, especially along Clearwater Drive and means of breaking the mass. So generally the context of the design, staff does feel that the context of the design is appropriate, and staff is recommending that the applicant continue to work with staff on the exact type and placement of materials while maintaining the overall separation of base, podium, and tower, and evaluating the potential to expand the building base to the appropriate dimension in relation to the building height. So these are, again, since we have not had the opportunity to review the elevations and the floor plans in great detail with the renderings, we would like to still have these conditions as we work through. And we're also seeking any guidance from the board you have would be greatly appreciated. So skipping to C, because it is related, it's building design. This criteria is focused on the proposed development being evaluated based on the quality and execution of the design, where elements should be consistent across the entire development. This consistency is based upon mass, bulk, proportion, fenestration, and rhythm of building elements. Again, the purpose of these discussions with the applicant and this cooperative discussion has been also to address standard C in order to help create a proper proportion in massing, particularly along Clearwater. Staff does find that the elements are consistent along the facade and the location of this transition line, the horizontal transition line, does create a separation between podium and tower elements. But again, we do have recommendations that the applicant continue to work on the exact placement of material these to ensure that the special review criteria are met. I want to jump into the variances here while we're talking about the structure of the building. There are 2 variances being requested. The first is a variance from the side interior setback for ground and podium level from 15 feet to 11.5 feet. So shown here on the left is the floor plan, and the exhibit area that's outlined in red is what you're seeing on the right. So on the right side, you see the property line in red. The blue line is the side interior setback, the 15-foot side interior setback, and you can show I did a little small triangle. There's just a small little sliver within this required setback that the applicant is requesting a variance from. Additionally, the next variance is from the side interior setback above level 7. Also, the same concept here on the right, you see the exhibit of the property line, the 20-foot side interior setback above level 7 in blue, and the small sliver of triangle, which is only on levels 7 and 8, are what this variance request is for, because above 8 is open air, pool deck, and then open air. So the justification for these variances is based off the unique property line configuration, which I'm showing here. In order to meet the setback, the orientation of the structure would change and possibly result in an inefficient design of the parking garage, where the parking garage and structure would either they would have to shift west, which would possibly result in more levels of parking garage, which we would like to avoid, staff would like to avoid, and it would also not align as well with the existing parking garage. So staff is recommending approval based off the variance criteria as established in the staff report. Specifically, the variance is minimal, property line is not a result of the applicant, and literal interpretation would result in a compressed building footprint, which could result in a taller parking structure. To go back to special review criteria B, this is circulation and traffic flow. And the intent of this criteria is to promote pedestrian circulation, and that vehicular circulation should be efficient and limit the impacts to pedestrian movement around and through the site and not detract from quality of active uses. The applicant did reduce the size of the curb cuts on Clearwater Drive to promote more active uses. Initially, the southern entrance on Clearwater, which is on the left here, was 2 lanes in and 1 lane out. And the one to the, I'm sorry, that's the northern. The one to the south was bi-directional, 1 in and 1 out. So now we only have 1 bi-directional on Clearwater, and the other is egress only for loading and sanitation trucks, and it will be gated majority of the time. Also, for the same criteria, I wanted to show they are proposing the micromobility station as required for micro units. This is within the public open space, as well as other micromobility options. Also, the proximity to the multimodal station also helps to mitigate the impact of vehicular traffic. Other mitigation efforts will be continued to be evaluated through the updated traffic statement once that is submitted to the city traffic engineer as we continue through site plan approval. These arrows here show the pedestrian circulation along the east and north of the structure, a continuous 8-foot sidewalk along Clearwater Drive, and also the paver path as mentioned that connects from Clearwater to the existing Edge building along the active uses. The public open space will provide for a place for public enjoyment as the applicant and staff continue to work on the final design. And again, staff feels that circulation can be further enhanced through the modification of the location of these planter beds and by integrating the outside edges of the open space with lawn. And lastly, D, public realm. This is the criteria that is reviewed that the proposed development should enhance the public realm through open space, public amenities, landscape or building design, which contributed to the attractiveness of the public realm. Staff overall feels that this is a positive enhancement. The proposed public open space interacts with the north facade, and the enhancements will improve the drainage in that area. Preservation of existing oak trees along the access drive and the east side of public open space provides shade and maintains mature canopy there. Staff does recommend, again, incorporating larger trees along the outer edges of the open lawn. Staff is also recommending through site plan approval process that the existing oak trees along Clearwater Drive be relocated to the water treatment plant or to another appropriate location. Unfortunately, the existing oak trees were planted at the back of the sidewalk right on this property where the structure is being proposed. And our internal landscape planner is not recommending that we relocate these to the curb line in fear that they would get damaged during the construction process. So his recommendation is to relocate these to an appropriate site. And the proposed open space and lawn will allow for use of public in Clearwater District and is a place of rest for the multimodal user and transit operators and the public in general. And we are recommending incorporation of AIPP once again. So overall, staff's professional opinion that staff is now at a comfort level to recommend approval through the cooperative discussion with the applicant and conditions to update the architecture and the design of the public open space subject to conditions in the report. And in staff's professional opinion, the requested variances will not negatively impact the downtown area and will support the construction of a new project that introduces active uses along Clearwater Drive and enhance a public open space. So our recommendation, we do have the following conditions. I'm not going to read these word by word. I've gone through these, but just to generalize, incorporate more shade trees, provide more access into the public open space. These are the conditions for the public open space, excuse me. Rearrange some of the required seating. This might be done through the AIPP. We could have some creative seats. Rearrange planter beds to have better connectivity. Provide through renderings examples of how space will be programmed. Consider incorporation of AIPP requirement into the design. Refine the treatment of the open lawn edge. Design the public open space and be brought to DAC once the design has been finalized. In regard to the building design, staff is recommending that the applicant continue to work with staff in the exact materials and placement materials while maintaining breaking of mass. Evaluate expanding the building base to a more appropriate dimension. Additional conditions, relocating existing oak trees, and analysis of access drive intersection shall be evaluated. I wanted to make this, this last one, I wanted to focus on, I am recommending revision to this. We originally said a public access easement shall be recorded for public use of public open space. That was the incorrect term. That is not something we usually do for public open spaces. So I would like to modify this to the public open space shall be open to general public, which it has always intended to be as part of this project during established hours, with a sign posted at the most apparent entrances containing language that establishes such requirements meeting the definition of public open space. So this is pretty much just saying it's a public open space, same as all the other public open spaces in the downtown. And for the variances, we are recommending approval. And that is all. Thank you for your patience during this presentation and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Liz, for the presentation. And thank you, Alfonso. Just one quick question, Liz. This would either be for staff or the applicant before we move into either public comment or board questions. Can someone just describe the context, the relationship of the existing open space park to the east across Clearwater to the parking lot and eventually the rail station? There just seems to be a strong axial relationship of the current park and the pathway, and I was wondering if that would be maintained and reinforced in some fashion with this design.
So we talked about this internally. There's no actual crossing or ADA crossing currently, but the way that the sidewalk entrance into the public open space does align with an entrance into the multimodal station. So we wanted we had discussions about this, whether we wanted to maintain that exact linear connection, but with the proposal of more of an open plaza feel, you still have the access, but we did not want to, and we can continue this discussion with the traffic engineer, but at the time, we did not want to have an actual ADA crossing because it is in the middle of the street, and we typically want to prevent crossings other than at intersections.
Okay.
And then if the applicant has anything else to add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, just as long as it's being addressed and sort of incorporated with the relationships there. That's fantastic. I guess, should we move and see if there's any public comment now on this before we move into questions from the board members?
Sure,
Mr. Chair,
I know we do have some.
Yeah, whenever you're ready for public comment, there's one that I need to read into the record, and I believe there are a couple people who wish to speak via Zoom, so I would have to bring them in. So if you're ready for that, I will begin.
Yeah, John, let's go ahead and do that now. Thank you.
Okay. So first, I'm going to read into the record a written comment from Rafael Clemente, Executive Director of the DDA. He said, I would like to provide comments in support of that case 20-08. The open space design provided by 350 South Australian will greatly enhance the public open space of the Clear Lake District. One of the challenges that area of downtown faces is that it's designed in a manner that is very suburban, i.e. large setbacks, no active frontages along streets, and a feeling of disconnection between buildings and public spaces. The design of the plaza for this project will greatly improve this condition by creating a publicly accessible space that has active frontage. In the past, the DDA has produced a handful of events in this area with the goal of seeding some activity there. As it currently is, there are no good locations for any type of community activities, gatherings, or events. As part of an urban neighborhood, this condition really prevents this area of downtown from fully developing as a neighborhood. The generous public space element of 350 South Australian will be a great amenity for the entire district. In addition to that, the inclusion of a dog park to alleviate the problems that arise from pet waste and other green areas downtown is an important element. One survey the DDA did indicated a nearly 1-to-1 ratio of pets to residents in the Edge, one of the buildings in the Clear Lake District. So that concluded Raphael's comments. So next, I will bring in, Howard. I will promote him as a panelist, give him audio capabilities. Just give me 1 second.
John, I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hope.
I was going to read into the record one email correspondence received by staff. I regret that I am unable to attend the meeting scheduled for December 9th, 2020 remotely or in person. Thank you for this opportunity to offer my public comment in writing. As a full-time resident and unit owner in the Edge Condominium 1, located at 300 South Australian Avenue, I respectfully ask the Downtown Action Committee to deny the variance request for DAC case number 20-08. Approving the proposed site plan will cause significant negative impacts to the health, safety, and welfare of Edge residents, as well as increases to our building maintenance requirements. The site plan under review for 350 South Australian Avenue, also known as 350, differs significantly from the original concept as a sister building to the Edge Condominium 1. If you were not already aware, please know that the original plans of the sister buildings connected them on the 6th floor to share the amenities, including the pool and the gym at the 6th story level. Under the proposed site plan for 350, the garage appears to be open air on the west side, rising 8 stories. The proposed pool deck for 350 is on level 9. The effects of a garage and pool area above 6 stories, so close to my building, will inevitably cause damage to the air quality and sanitation of all existing amenities deck and the existing residences at the below 9 stories high. These damages will not only negatively affect all of the property values of our existing building, but cause irreparable damages to our lifestyle. In addition, I often enjoy the serenity of our Zen circle and fountain located near the northeast corner of our property. I have received documentation from the urban design planner of record that pictures the replacement of our Zen circle with a new green lawn with underground drainage. I am in firm opposition to any plan that infringes upon my ownership rights and enjoyment of this lovely, peaceful area. It has been especially beneficial during the pandemic to have an area where residents can meet at safe social distances. This area is not owned by the developer. Any approval to use it for other than its current purpose should require a vote from all current owners. It is unacceptable that our lifestyle is poised to suffer negative impacts from this project that deviates so dramatically from what was originally planned as a sister building. I urge you with sincere concern for my health, safety, and welfare to deny approval of the variances and the site plan as submitted. Thank you for your consideration. Angela Barbado.
Okay, Mr. Chair, as far as comment from people on Zoom, I've promoted Howard. So Howard, if you can unmute, turn on your video, you can then speak. And you,
Good morning, all.
yeah.
And Howard, were you sworn in at the beginning of the hearing?
No, I was not, so
No,
I'm
you
happy to do so.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak. First of all, I'd like to just tell everybody that my name is Howard Gangbar. I'm president of Condo 1 for the Edge Condominium in West Palm Beach. I am a owner of a unit as well as the president. I am a Canadian, a proud Canadian, and unfortunately I'm not able to come to the US because of our banning restrictions. But I would first like to thank all the panelists that are working on behalf of West Palm Beach and the committees for doing their due diligence, for working on behalf of the 307 unit owners of the Edge. In a perfect world, everybody can't get what they like, but I think for the most part, the committees have looked at every possible scenario. I'd like to also thank at this point the developer who has been a kind neighbor. We've been in talks with him for the past 6 months, and he has made many accommodations, as Joe has mentioned in his opening speech. They have addressed the trash issue. They have addressed the traffic flow. And again, in the perfect world, sure, everybody would like to have exactly what they want, but from a population size and from considering all the issues that are at hand, they have been very accommodating to work with us, to have several meetings with us. They have reached out by Zoom presentation to the members of our community, and we are continually trying to make sure that everybody is happy. So and I don't want to have any comments on the things that you've done today, but I think it was important for me to speak on behalf of our community, on behalf of what has been going on over the last 6 months. The other president for the Master Association has been in direct contact with the developer and has worked with him directly. And I believe we are moving in a very, very positive direction. So I wanted to thank you all again for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, the next person that we will bring in is Lori. Just 1 second. Okay, Lori, you should be able to unmute and turn on your video.
Hi. I'm Lori Hageman. I've been a
Lori,
full-time
can I
resident.
swear you in?
Oh yes, sorry.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Okay. I've been a resident for 5 years on the first floor directly across from this Zen garden that we speak of. And I'm curious what would stop this from becoming just a giant doggy park with all of this grassy area. Is there anything in place to prevent that, or are we just allowing it? I heard mention of it becoming a dog park as well. That's one of my questions. And are we answering questions, or am I just asking the questions? How is this working?
I can answer that, or I can take a stab at answering it.
Okay.
There's a proposed dog park for that purpose, so that through some enforcement, I guess, would direct the unit owners to the dog park to walk their dogs as opposed to doing it in the on the lawn.
Right.
The dog park is located on the south edge of the park.
But so there's nothing in place to prevent this at all. So it will in fact become a giant dog park.
Well, no, but we're giving an option for that purpose. We're providing a dog park specifically to relieve. If there was no dog park, then people would be forced to do it in the lawn. We're providing a dog park so that it hopefully takes away the.
So let me. I think that also it's very clear that the master association would continue to control the park, so they can make any rules they would like, provided that they're consistent with the condition of approval that allows for public access during the daytime. So the master association would have control over the operation and activities that are allowed within the park, provided they're consistent with the conditions of approval to allow public access. So it could be posted no dogs allowed if the master association chooses to do so.
But this also is becoming not just our property, which we own the property. It's becoming the property of the city, correct? That anyone can come and use this. Not only our building, your building, but anyone.
No, it remains your property. It is just has the public access requirement that you have to allow public to access this area during the daylight hours.
What do we intend on doing with the beautiful palms that are out there? I hear mention of these oak trees, which are really just garbage trees that drop leaves. We got gorgeous palm trees out there. What's the intent with those?
All of those trees would have to be relocated or have a permit to be removed, but palm trees are easily relocatable. So imagine that we will look at relocating those within areas of the park. I mean, we're hoping to use as much of that vegetation as possible within the park design.
So none of those, since they are our trees, would any of them be able to be located around our existing circle and pulling out the oak trees that are around the circle? Is that a possibility?
We can work with you.
Our area.
We can work with you to try to cooperate and find a home for these trees.
And then workforce housing. How many units in this building are workforce housing?
None at this time. I mean, they're all market rate at this point. We have not made any determinations about workforce housing at this point.
But the
micro units are intended to provide for housing for people on the lower end of the scale.
So
but not low-income housing. This is not a low-income housing. This is a workforce housing project, which means workers in the downtown can afford to live here.
Young professionals as well.
Young professionals, yeah.
But potentially 190 units of workforce housing is potentially what this is, correct?
Potentially, maybe all of them are workforce housing. I mean, it just means that they qualify as somebody could afford to live in this place in West Palm Beach based on the current economics.
And with the pictures that you've shown, I haven't seen anything showing what the garage, what the outside of the garage is going to look like. We're seeing just the clear water side, but what is the garage going to look like from the outside? Do we have any elevations of that?
Alfonso can explain that, but basically they will be screened with architectural screening elements.
Right, the garage is fully screened on the west and the south. It's fully screened with a pattern in colors. It's shown in the elevations. I believe they were shown during the.
But you won't be able to look into the garage.
You won't be able to look inside, right? And there's also a solid crash wall that keeps the lights of the cars from coming through.
But as far as what it's going to look like from our pool deck, because this is going to go up, to the 9th floor. Your pool deck is on the 9th floor. Can we see something of what it's actually going to look like from our pool deck looking out onto this garage?
Yeah, there's elevations in the points that were presented that show what that looks like.
But in essence, you would be looking at a colorful wall, basically no windows or openings, but you would be able to see the colorful pattern on that wall. From your pool deck looking up, you're probably only going to see the one level of precast on the side of our building, and then below that's these screens. But it would be basically a wall that would not be more than about a story high from where you're at.
Right.
Is it possible to put these up again to see these? I don't know if I missed this or something, but.
I'm so sorry. Roger, the way that this has to be a public comment, so we need to have the 3-minute public comment, and then the applicant can respond afterwards, but we need to have that timer established, as we do for all public hearings.
Okay, let's do that. Let's Lori, when we're done with the public comments, we'll come back and respond to all the public comments, and looking at those elevations will be part of that. Okay.
Okay.
Does that sound good, Amaria? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, the next person who has their hand raised is Wantel. Hold on just 1 second.
Hope, are you able to do the 3-minute timer?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, Wantel, you should be in the meeting. You can mute and start your video.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me part of this event also. I greatly appreciate it as an owner of the Edge also. I'm kind of nervous and excited at the same time, as there's some good and bad at the same time, as I've noticed some.
Excuse me, Miss Nadeau, you need to be sworn in by our attorney.
Thank you.
Sure. Do you swear from the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
In regards to a couple of questions that I also just heard from Lori, for example, with the garage spaces, since we are on the 6th floor, would the garage cars be able to see our pool area as we're on the pool, which is one kind of thing that's up in the air of viewings? So that's one question, if that's a possibility to be answered.
There's, as we were saying before, the screening.
Hold on. Let her list all her questions, and then we'll go back and answer them after public comment is over, please.
Okay, perfect. And then of course the reducing of the noise sound, for example, when this all does start, for any guests or owners that live on the east side of the units, would there be some kind of noise prevention as this building will be built? And those are kind of two of my biggest questions at the moment, as I have a time manner, so.
Okay, great. We'll answer those accordingly after we get to everyone's. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Yep. Back to you, John.
Okay, the next person will be Carl. Just 1 second. Okay, Carl, you're in the meeting. You should be able to unmute and start your video.
Am I on?
Yes,
Good
you'll just
morning,
need to be
Carl.
sworn in.
Good morning. Yeah,
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you.
So my name is Carl Barafaro. I'm an owner at The Edge, and I want to thank you all, as well as thank Lori, fellow co-owners or fellow members, Lori, Howard, and Winnell, I believe it was, for their comments. I also have the same concern in regards to in our pool deck. Of course, our pool deck is our sanctuary as well as our Zen garden, and those are my concerns. Now, especially in regards to our pool deck, I would think that it would be ideal to have 350's pool deck at the same level, exact same level as our pool deck. That would be ideal. And it wasn't clear in the presentation. I was under the impression that, and a relief that, wow, it's going to be on the same level. That's fantastic. But it seems like it's not from what my understanding, and I'd like for that to be clarified. If it is not, then that is a major concern. We would not want to be facing a wall or garages or anything else for that matter, except for more open space aside ours, of course, towards the east, to have their amenity deck at the exact same level as our amenity deck. And the other question I had was, is there any equipment that would be on that side between our building and their building? I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but if there would be any kind of equipment there that would cause any noise, extra noise besides the garages, that's another question. And also, the third one would be in regards to the garages. As you know, we have closed garages, and again, I highly support Angela Barbato's opposition to the variance, which I didn't fully understand, but it made me think they should have a closed garage as we do, again, to avoid any pollution or any any unpleasant odors coming from that garage towards our pool amenities, as well as your own pool amenities. So that would be my last one. So I thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl. Good. Next one.
Yeah, I have one more person with their hand raised. They have a screen name of Hines. Not sure of their full name. I'll bring them in and. Okay. Whoever is logged in as Hines, you can unmute, start your video. You just need to be sworn in.
Yes, my name is David Hines.
David, do you have a camera available?
Yes, I do. I don't know why it's not working. It should be. Let me see.
Should be. There you go. Perfect.
There we go.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm the testimony you're going to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I have basically one question. I'm a unit owner in the Edge. I own unit 707. My question is this: maintenance of the dog park. I used to live in a building called the Prado, and we used the dog park over, I'm trying to think of the name of the park, the one that's right off of Parker.
Howard Park.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Anyways, the question is maintenance. It's a very difficult thing. What are the estimates of how many dogs are going to be between the two buildings? I know in this particular building, there's got to be, and somebody could probably give me an exact figure, but there could easily build it. I don't know how many proposed to be in the new building, but this could be a real big problem unless there's a very high quality of who is going to, in an ideal world, every dog owner is going to clean up their own mess. But there's still the question of urine, which they can't clean up, and that creates a horrible smell. And we're talking about potentially a lot of animals. So has anybody given any thought to that? Now, is this going to be a city issue, or who's going to be responsible for maintaining the dog park? And what are the dimensions of the dog park? That's my question.
Okay, David, thanks. We'll have staff address that. Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome. Thank you.
John, do we have anyone else? Thanks.
Mr. Chair, no one else has
John,
raised their
any
hand.
others?
No one else has raised their hand, and I have not received any other written communication.
Okay, so noted. So why don't we proceed, if it would be okay to have staff kind of go down the list of these comments. I made a list, but if they could address the ones they could answer and or if the applicant could answer the others.
Mr. Chair, I would prefer the
Or
applicant
Rick, go ahead.
address those and then the staff can add if need be.
Okay, perfect. Let's do that then. So I guess
Okay, cool.
Alfonso, will you take care of these responding?
I'll start, Roger, and then I'll
Or
turn it over to
Joe.
Alfonso. But basically, the garage height is a function of us being asked to move the garage away from the building to separate it to create the area for them to have a trash pickup location. So there's a trade-off there: additional height required to provide the area necessary for trash pickup. As far as our plan right now is to have a naturally aspirated garage, which would be much quieter than a mechanically ventilated garage. So that's the other reason why we were choosing to have a open, naturally ventilated garage with our architectural screenings that allow air movement through them. And then I'm going to turn it over to Alfonso to answer the other questions. But I mean, as far as the dog park will be managed by the building, our building, and we'll have complete control over it. There'll be rules, and people that violate the rules will be prohibited from going in there. But we will also be maintaining that area just like all the other areas on our property as an amenity for our building. So I'll turn it over to Alfonso to answer the remaining questions.
I'm not sure what the remaining questions were anymore. Can somebody refresh?
Why don't I do this, Alfonso? This is Roger. We'll just go down the list, the notes that I made here. The second, maybe this is for Joe and Alfonso. The second, Angela Barboto asked about, she had some oppositions to the variance, and maybe staff could respond to those or the applicant.
I can respond.
And Joe, I don't know if any of those.
If that the variance is
go ahead,
not.
Liz.
Yeah, sorry. The variance is not tied directly to the height of a parking garage, but the actual setback. And if they weren't meeting the setback, it could potentially even increase the height even more for the parking garage. So I just want to clarify that from the staff perspective.
Right, and if I may add to that, the setback, I mean, the variance doesn't allow us to get any closer to the Edge 1 garage. It's actually to go closer to the side neighbor. So it shouldn't affect the Edge 1 at all.
Okay, thanks, Alfonso. So Alfonso, then on items, I think from Lori number 4 and Carl number 6, there were some questions about the view of the west elevation. And do you have either a cross section that shows the relationship of the Edge pool deck amenity structure relative to the proposed structure for your project that would answer some of the questions about that architectural relationship and the elevation of your west facade?
Yes. I can share.
And I think that would address a lot of the questions from Lori and Carl. Mm-hmm.
Can I share my screen at this point?
And staff, yeah, go ahead.
Hang on a second.
And staff, well, Alfonso's looking for the drawings. Are the issues of noise and air, air quality, maintenance for the dog park, are these all code enforcement related issues, or are they subject to control by the property owner or the HOA?
Mr. Chair, this is Ana Maria. The city has specific regulations about the level of noise permitted. So when a garage exists, they have to provide, if they are a ventilated garage, and even if they are an enclosed garage and they're gonna have any mechanical ventilation equipment, they have to provide noise attenuation devices to reduce the noise level, and they have maximum levels that they can reach according with the city regulations. So the building.
Thank you, and I agree with that. Now, okay, so as long as that all the technical aspects of that are addressed, I'm hoping that between code regulations and code enforcement, we can rely on that for the issues of noise, air quality, and cleanliness and maintenance. Okay, thank you, staff. Okay, Alfonso, there we go. Perfect. That's good.
Right. So this is a section that illustrates the relationship of the two garages. The separation between the Edge 1 garage has an area that is lower than the actual pool deck. The pool deck was raised about 6 feet to allow for the depth of the pool. It has an area that's lower that's really not used, or it doesn't seem to be programmed for use. So from that point back to our pool deck, we're at 75 feet, 8 inches away from their pool deck. Our pool deck is at 84 feet. Theirs is at 64 feet. So there's a 20-foot difference, more or less, in the height of the pool decks. And this entire facade is screened, so you can't see into the garage. And as I was mentioning earlier, there's crash walls, solid crash walls that keep the headlights of the cars from shining across into the garage. I'm sorry, into their pool deck. And okay. the structures are physically separated by 44, almost 45 feet.
Okay. And then, Alfonso, is there a landscape plan that would depict any landscape buffer at that either exists at the? It looks like there's some small landscape features on the existing pool deck of the Edge 1. And is there anything on your plaza pool level?
Yeah. Our pool deck would be fully landscaped. I don't depict the landscaping in the section, but we do have a landscape plan for the pool deck.
Roger, this is.
So it sounds like, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Something I wanted to mention was the original Edge 1 and Edge 2, Edge Phase 1 and Phase 2 were actually connected. They had a shared parking deck. And it is my understanding, and I'll let Joe speak to this more, but that was no longer in the interest of the Edge Phase 1 to do that, and that would have resulted in a lower parking garage around the same height. Joe, did you want to add anything to that to address some of these concerns?
No, basically, like I said, this was the trade-off. What was more important to the Edge was to separate the buildings and provide them an area for trash pickup and storage, and also the great loading areas that they need to do the move-ins and move-outs that they don't presently have within their design. So the trade-off was we needed to go a little bit higher, but we could provide them that extra space. But that was the desire of both boards when we met with them.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Let's see. So we'll just go back to the list. So I think that addressed the questions from number 4, Lori, about the dog park. Do you have, Alfonso, then, is there just a straight elevation that shows your west facade in addition to that cross section?
Yeah, I forgot. Hang on a second. Let me share again.
That's okay. Thanks.
And Alfonso, it would be helpful if you showed that detail of the garage screening you provided with me. I don't think either one of us showed that.
Yeah, I can do that. That's this is the garage elevation right here. It's a composition of fabric mesh panels that are set in different planes and different shades of gray or color, and something we can study.
And what would be visible would only be the top 2 levels there of the garage. Everything else would be below the grade of the pool.
2 levels here.
Correct.
The garage details. Yeah.
One of the reasons that was designed that way too is so our residents could look out over and see Clear Lake without looking down or over their pool deck. directly into their pool deck. The same from them not look at our pool deck, so they don't look directly into our pools from their pool deck. So it's trying to create privacy for both pool decks by having them slightly different elevations. One looks over the other, so they both have views of the water, which is also a district requirement to provide as many watershed views as possible.
Mr. Chair, does the architect have a detail of this fabric mesh screen?
We're pulling that
Alfonso,
up right
do
now.
you have, it sounds like you have, okay,
This is
good.
it.
Joe, your point's well taken. Thank you on the relationship of the heights.
This is the detail of the screen.
Can you blow that up a little bit, Alfonso, please?
Alfonso, so these are a combination of fabrics and metal frames?
Right. Yes, it's fabric tensed on metal frames.
Do you know if they provide any acoustic separation?
No. They're breathable, so they allow air to come through. I mean, we can work with the applicant, the Edge One residents to figure out, what's the best way to screen this.
Does the fabric have any kind of varieties in terms of the opacity? Can you get them a little bit, I don't want to say denser, but the opacity height increased while still allowing for that air circulation that you need?
Yeah.
Because obviously you can see through these, and if someone's standing in the garage, they can look down from level 7 and 8, which just seems to be the big concern. Maybe those panels have to be treated a little bit differently or have a higher opacity level.
I mean, you can see through it slightly, but it isn't. It does impair your vision through the screen.
Now, Alfonso, there was another question about from Carl Burfett on number 6. Is there any equipment in between the buildings in this certain cross-section location relative to the Edge One pool area?
I'm sorry, what was that again? Is there a what?
Is there any mechanical or other equipment
No.
located between the buildings at this cross-section location?
No.
Okay,
No.
thanks.
And one of the advantages of having a naturally ventilated garage is you don't have fans on the exterior, on the facade, that are always working and blowing air out.
Okay, I think that addressed most questions. If I missed any, Liz or Anna Maria, let me know. Otherwise, maybe this is something we could add as a condition that the applicant and staff work to pay special attention to some of these concerns between the buildings. But I think it looks like you've addressed most of these in a fairly appropriate fashion in terms of massing and relationship. Okay, so Anna Maria or Liz, were there any other specific points that we did not discuss that you took note of relative to the public comment?
Mr. Chair, this is John. One gentleman has raised his hand. I don't know. I know technically you've closed public comment. It's up to you whether you want to allow them to speak.
Go ahead. I haven't closed it yet, so we can take one more.
Okay. I'll bring in Joe Nasuti. Just 1 second.
One thing, as we're bringing in this gentleman, Roger, if you do desire, the board can add some type of condition relative to the screening of the garage from the pool deck or the noise, or some general comments. So we have that in the final order, and we'll adjust that through site plan approval.
Good. I think it might be a good idea to add that as a condition.
Hey, Joe, you're in the meeting. You should be able to unmute and start your video.
Excuse me, everyone. Before Joe starts, I have to go. I am actually doing some ill-advised traveling today. I have to get down to Fort Lauderdale. I did let Hope know I would only be able to participate until close to 11. My flight actually got changed, so that makes it even a little bit tighter. I would imagine this project come back, so I'm glad I've got to take part. I do have some things I would like to comment on, but I just don't think I can wait any longer here at this point. We still have a quorum if I leave, correct? I see there's at least four, there's 5 or 6 members here. Okay. So I guess I'm going to have to cut it short here, but thank you for the presentation from staff and the applicant. Potentially, could I email some questions directly to staff or the applicant on this after the call, or how would I approach that?
I think that would be appropriate.
We're totally fine with trying to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next month.
Thank you, Michael.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, Michael. Same to you. Thank you.
Joe, you should be able to start your video and turn your audio on.
Hit him again, John.
Okay, I got it now. Sorry. Hi. I just
Joe,
like
are you able to turn your video on?
Okay, hang on. You're talking to somebody who has no idea what he's doing. Okay.
And can you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Joe Nasuti. I am the president of the Edge Condominium Master Board. We are the people that basically control what is outside of the tower, our tower building, which is the grounds and the Zen Garden, etc. I had a committee formed when we first met last year, along with myself and Scott Davis and Joyce Tomasito, and we had group. The development group was very, very cooperative with us. We had major concerns, and at first it was a little bit of a testy kind of relationship, but basically every request that we made, they bent over backwards to do. And then the city, we'd like to thank you guys for what you have done, your due diligence in bringing out stuff that we didn't even think about. So when you look at the original project, which would have been Condo 2, this is by and far more acceptable to me and to the committee and a number of people I've talked with. So we're looking forward to working with our new neighbors. And I'm sure that a lot of the questions were raised today will be actually taken care of. And we're just to give an idea, we're talking today about the screening in the garage, and already they're leaning towards, okay, let's see what we can do to make it better. So I think we're going to have a good relationship. I like the idea of the separation of the two buildings and the different look of the two buildings. And I wish them the best of luck. And we look forward to the next, I guess, 2.5 years that before this project is finished. The main concern was our parking circle and sharing the driveway. They immediately made changes to move out onto the Clearwater Drive, which is really nice to them. And then we're concerned about parking spaces around the circle. And they really seem to be willing to work with us, which is the benefit of both organizations. So again, thank you everyone involved today for your comments. And I'm sure this is the beginning of a few other meetings like this, but we're looking forward to moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Chair, that's all public
John,
comment.
do we have any others?
Nope, that's all public
Okay,
comment.
so why don't we now formally, perfect. Why don't we now formally close the public discussion portion? Thank you all who did take the time and energy to make comments. It's a very big, complicated project, and it was nice to hear from Howard and Joe as representatives of the residents at the Edge 1, that there was a lot of discussion, a lot of cooperation, and hopefully this will make for a smooth transition for the continuation of the development of these properties. So thank you all. So why don't we move then to comments and questions from any of the board members to either staff or the applicant, starting with Brian.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. First off, I'd like to say it's a very nice project. It's going to be a great addition to that area and support, the mass transit that's happening in and around the area. There seem to be a few things that are still kind of being worked through, and I'm glad that staff's working with you and is like moving you along, and you guys are still working with staff. That's fantastic. The one thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of the architecture, condition H, if it's possible, can we add to that condition if it isn't clear that the colors should be part of the discussions, that are the continued discussions? When I saw the last iteration of the building that had the sandstones and the whites, and it looked like kind of light gray, could be taupe, that seemed to be a little more in keeping with the neighboring project. Whereas the last iteration, the one that we're looking at now, seems a little more stark in terms of the black and white contrast. Or it's not black. I know it's dark gray and there's some iterations of gray in it, but it just seems to be going very dark. And I'm wondering if H could be modified to include. I'm sorry, I thought it was H. It was the one regarding the architecture. Yeah, H. I'm sorry, it is H. The exact materials and placement of materials. I guess that would be I. Continue to work with staff on the exact materials and placement of materials and colors, because in my opinion, it just seems to be going very dark, and that I think that's kind of moving away from some of the earlier iterations that I thought the colors were fine. On the open green design, in terms of what staff is working on with the applicant, obviously if AIPP gets incorporated into it, it's going to change the shape of all that. And obviously today you heard more concerns about how the dog park's going to work and operate. Obviously it should stay where it's at. It's a great location from how you've separated that out from that large open area. Changing trees, may knock some of the symmetry out of the design that Michael's come up with. But if staff wants more shading and make it more active on that western edge of the building, then that can probably be worked out with the applicant. And I encourage the applicant to keep kind of working with staff on whatever the plant sizing or material should be. It's going to be a large building. Put them in large so that we can activate that space from go versus smaller materials. And the last thing is really this garage. I think I agree with Roger in terms of having a condition that maybe works on additional opacity at the upper two levels to ensure that there's effective screening visually onto that Edge 1's pool deck area. I know it does obscure the vision, but you can certainly see through it. If someone stood there, they can, if there's options or if there's different levels of opacity that you can get in the screening, I think we should look at whatever options are out there, and you should continue to work with staff on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it's a good point about the color, right? I was going to comment on that later, but those are good comments. Let's see, Michael's out. Stephen, you have any comments?
All right. Yeah, I do. Just I've got a few. Thank you. Yeah, look, certainly this is been a long discussion this morning, so it's clearly a complex project. My initial thoughts were that this seems to be coming to us, a little more feels a little more unfinished perhaps than some other applications, but hearing all the discussion and some of the conditions that staff's recommending, I'm more comfortable with what's being presented. I do have a question. I sort of reiterate definitely Brian and Roger's comments regarding the pool deck and those upper levels of the garage. I haven't really seen I mean, there might have been a landscape plan in the backup, but I'd like to see, and Nick may mention this too, a little more discussion around landscape on the pool deck for the new development. I'd like to just hear what the applicant has proposed for that. We've talked about the screening of the upper levels of the actual parking deck itself, but I'd like to see the pool deck and see what's proposed there. I'd also like to hear the applicant just talk through the micro unit concept, how they came to that. We've seen proposals like this come before this board before over the last few years, but nothing's really eventuated downtown. So I'm certainly supportive of micro units. They add a valuable element to downtown and downtown living and downtown employment. But I just want to hear a little more from the applicant on that. Finally, I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but I'd like to know the size of the open space that is there right now. This is a great addition. The enhancements and the conditions staff are recommending are good. I'm just interested to know sort of what size that area is, but that's kind of my questions at this point. I'm not in any objection to the variance. I feel like the variance is minimal in this context. There has always been some development envisaged for this property. Just interested to hear answers to a few of those questions.
Thanks, Stephen. The applicant. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Liz.
I'll let the applicant address the questions. The only thing I wanted to mention is the microunits project on South Olive Avenue. It was 625 South Olive, now it's 695 South Olive, adjacent to blanking on the name. Community Foundation. That is under construction currently, and that's a fully microunit project. And then I guess that is the only one that's under construction. Flagler Station does have micro units as well, and they are also in for building permit and getting very close. I just wanted to mention those.
And the Banyan Place, the Jeff Green project on Clematis was approved, but obviously that hasn't started construction. That was the first micro unit project we had.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the one I was thinking of, but that's fine.
Okay, I'll turn over to the applicant.
So yeah, to address your microunit question, we're not a sole standalone microunit project like the other projects that have been approved in town. We are inclusive of some microunits in the building, and mainly because of the way that we're wrapping the garage that is a single loaded, so it allows us to get a lot of units in along the garage lining, and it also will now enable us to work with the workforce housing program if we choose to move forward with that end of it. But that's really basically, we thought it would be better to mix those units within a standard unit mix. We have 1, 2s, and 3s, but we also have these micro units, which are intended to just keep the rents lower. That's basically the ethos behind that.
Okay.
And then I think we could get you a copy of the landscape plan for the deck level as well, but that would be obviously, it's the same as the edges. We would have a perimeter landscaping around the deck that would kind of contain the pool deck within the top of the garage. So it's not, so people aren't next to the edge so much. And that's kind of our design, is to keep people pushed back so they can't look down into the other pool.
Okay, finally, I guess this is a question for you, Joe. Are you agreeable to all staff's recommended conditions?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And staff has been wonderful working with us in a collaborative method, and we have been working fluidly with them, and I don't think there's any problems.
Thank you.
Okay. Steve, you good with that?
Yeah, that's all I have right now.
Perfect, thank you. Nick, are you available for any questions for applicant or staff?
I am, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple of questions and comments. One is the reaction I had, and maybe this is a simple materials or maintenance question. When I see architecture with those planar elements, particularly things that have an underside to them, you often see those buildings here in South Florida with kind of mold and dirt and mildew and such that sort of accumulates from stormwater runoff. I don't know if that's a problem with those buildings, and maybe paint or materials nowadays prohibit that, but if the architect can address that in terms of, is the building going to look pristine and clean like this, or does it need to be clean once rain and mildew and everything sort of occur on all those planes and the underside of balconies?
Well, the underside of balconies are a matter of maintenance by the resident in the unit, right? There are things you can do with paint, anti-fungal paint and stuff like that help. Also, giving those surfaces a good slope helps as well. It gets the water off quickly, and but beyond that, it's just a matter of maintenance. And there aren't that many horizontal planes other than balconies, which again are going to be an issue of maintenance with the unit owners or unit residents themselves. But it is a common problem here because of the amount of rain that we have and those sorts of things. But again, there's certain paints you can use that are more suited to keeping that clean than others, and we will definitely do that.
So is the unit owner responsible to clean the underside of his balcony if you're on the street and looking up and there's mold and mildew? Is that what you're saying?
The underside shouldn't have. I thought you were referring to the front of the edge of the balcony, but the underside shouldn't have any mold. I don't think I've ever seen that.
And again, building management would maintain the building, and there would be pressure cleaning probably on an annual basis of all these exterior sides, as well as window washing to keep it clean. But yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing maintenance issue that the building management would have to handle. It's a single ownership, so it should be one entity that can handle that, and that shouldn't be a problem.
And the edge has it too, and it looks good. The is relative to open space there, and the green space and the dog park situation. I wasn't sure. I guess in looking at the plan, is there a fenced-off dog park at the very south end, and then the rest is open sod?
Yes, there's a fenced-off dog area on the side.
Okay. So that's the dog park proper, and then the rest is open space. And I saw staff's suggestions for access points, but my question is there a public easement over that green space such that anybody in the public can enjoy it, or the public is not allowed in there?
So I'll answer that. So I think there's some confusion. The dog park is completely separate from the public open space. It's between it's kind of between the two parking garages further towards the south. And that's completely separate from the public open space. So there's not going to be a fenced off portion within the public open space. It's just it's a privately owned dog park that is not counting towards any of the requirements for public open space. It was just something that the applicant decided to do on their own. There is not going to be a public access easement. That is not something we do for the public open space. That's why I wanted to clarify that last condition I had in there. I believe it was M or J. M or J. That is not the same. Hold on. It is M. We are not recommending a public access easement. We worked with our board attorney and to clarify that is not a typical requirement for public open space. Usually the public access easement is for if the sidewalk is in private, it extends into the private property. So there won't be any easement. It's just that it has to meet the criteria of public open space. It has to be accessible to the public. Of course, the private owner is able to establish specific hours, similar to city parks, sunrise to sunset or what be it. But we do we are recommending as part of that condition to have a sign at a couple of the most prominent access points that says this is open to the public. You know, from this time to this time, it is privately maintained, and they still can have their no trespassing signs as part of their private concerns of making sure they're able to get people out if they're there after hours. But no actual easement.
And just to clarify, the dog park is a private amenity of this phase. It will be controlled by this phase, and we will allow access provided that people abide by the rules for the dog park. But this is a private amenity. I just wanted to make sure that that's clear.
And that amenity is only for this new building, not for the edge, or is it for the whole?
You're muted. You're on mute, Joe.
Joe, you're muted.
We are working with our neighbors to allow access to it, provided they apply by our rules. But they, it is a private amenity that we will work in an agreement with them.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do appreciate that conversion of the drainage area into a level open space. I think that's a great solution. That's a win-win. So thank you. And I appreciate the input.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks, Nick. John Lee, do you have any comments? John Lee, do you have any comments? You're okay? Thank you. Gregory, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a very good project. I like it. And I'm happy we get a chance to see Howard and Joe speak from the president and the Master Association president. That really gave me some level of comfort that, because one of my questions was going to be, was the interaction between the developer and the owners. So that really put me at ease. But one question I want to, for the record, is when the project is being reviewed by the city traffic engineer to see what kind of impact the additional, that will be on Clearwater, what will be the traffic impact on the network, because it might create some type of bottleneck, especially at peak hours when palm train is coming in and people trying to get out, residents trying to get out, and the train is there. So at peak hours, that can create some major traffic impact. Because I did look up the ADT, it's about 38,000 cars annually. So that's really not for the developer, but maybe for the city to take that into consideration. I know they say this project might come back for review, so maybe some clarity on the workforce housing, because we know that's a major challenge for the county as a whole. So some clarity, because I believe Joe mentioned that they will be rented or they'll be owned. I just want some clarity on that, if it's really just rentals. And as far as the pool, so since the president and the public did mention their comment, and we already addressed some of the aesthetic for the panels, so I feel more at ease with that. Also, it's about 82 feet, so it may not be such a major issue, because they were trying to put the panels and trying to address it and make it look nicer, and it is the association to maintain them, so it can over time still look pleasant to the eye when resident from the edge is looking at the parking on the other side. So I feel like the 82 feet distance it's kind of make it a little bit more acceptable. The last one I have is there will be retail on the ground. So I know it's too early to know what retailer will be coming in, but so basically it's sort of unknowing what will be the outcome, but sort of would that attract other buildings, not buildings, other workers or residents from other buildings to come in. So what kind of traffic and circulation kind of keep people from crossing the street, whether it's from Australian to come over to the retail space. So just to keep that in mind for staff. And that's all the comment I have, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Gregory. I think that did cover everybody. Okay, go ahead, staff. You want to reply to that?
I just want to clarify. There seems to be some confusion. The building itself is not coming back to DAC. We are recommending. I mean, unless you don't recommend approval or continuance. But at this time, staff is recommending approval for the building and the open space. The only thing that would come back later is the public open space with the design modifications and namely with the incorporation of the art in public places. That's really the trigger to be brought back to DAC, is incorporating that art in public places, and we're working with the applicant on that to try to create a nice incorporation of art similar to what was done with the Broadstone building, which is now called Soleil, as well as the Alexander. And that was a similar concept with the Broadstone, where it was brought through DAC with a conceptual plan and site plan approval, and then it was brought back later with the art to the board. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then I think I'll let the applicant respond to the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for clarifying. Thank you.
Yeah, with regards to the traffic, the things that are missing out of the traffic report were some intersection traffic counts that we can't get right now because those intersections were under construction. So they've asked us to continue to work with them after the fact. Once those intersections open back up, we'll get the accurate counts. The other issue has been we can't really get great counts right now because of COVID. Obviously, the traffic is much lower going into downtown than it was in the past, and that we hope that will change. When we get the new counts, they will evaluate that, and we've agreed that if there's some major issue, we'll look at working with them to resolve that issue as far as the right in, right out, that kind of information. With regards to the workforce housing, once we have a site plan approval that enables us to work with the CRA, the Housing Authority, and the DDA to start talking about incorporating workforce housing elements into the project, maybe working with the DDA to potentially subsidize some of the retail spaces. These are the things that we're going to have ongoing discussions with the city moving forward, and eventually work into maybe a TIF program that will work for the building. But beyond that, our plan is to keep moving forward as a rental project that will be solely controlled by one developer. And that's the plan right now. There is no plan to make this a condominium or fee simple product for sale. So right now, the developer will control everything, and we think that's the best way for management to make sure that the building operates smoothly and cleanly the way it's designed. But those are our plans. And the idea that these active uses will activate the neighborhood. We're hoping that the people from the office tower or the Edge One and in all the other office buildings in the area may come here for a cafe or a coffee or some type of use that would be on the park. And that's kind of the intent. The 3 live work units at the end of the building are intended maybe for incubator space, so small businesses can start and be a business frontage right on Clear Lake. So we're hoping that with all the activity that we're providing on Clear Lake and the park, that more and more people will converge into this area and use it. And it will function more like the neighborhood that it was intended to be. I think that answered most of your questions, but if I missed something, please let me know.
Gregory, did that answer your question?
Yes, it answered my question. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Mr. Chair,
I think we got through everyone. Oh, go ahead.
Joe, would you be willing to accept that condition regarding working on the screening element on the west side of the garage? If we make that, because this isn't coming back to us, so I know you're working well with staff, but I'd like to have that codified. It seems to be an issue with some of the residents, and I know you guys can get through it with continue discussions?
Yeah, I mean, we'll specifically look at it, try to address it so everybody's comfortable with it. You know, I just don't want to make sure that we're not adding too much expense to that side of the building. But I mean, we will definitely look at making sure that everybody is comfortable that their privacy is maintained and that it's a good look, especially above that 7th and 8th floor where they are actually exposed in between the two areas where the trash is located, which is their trash. I would kind of hope that there'd be some give in that area so that we can put the money where it really matters and at the top levels.
I'm only concerned about those upper 2 levels facing.
So yeah,
their-
we would look at it. We could agree to a condition that we'll look at those upper 2 levels to make sure that they're adequately screened.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nick. I think was anyone else on the board? I think everybody commented, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll just throw in a few comments of my own, and thanks everyone. I agree with just about everything that was said there. Good comments. I'm glad that there'll be a condition to restudy the issues of the garage screening. You know, Brian, you talked about the colors. I think that's a very critical part of the whole success of this design solution. So really, in looking at, and I know the applicant wasn't presenting 2 options, but I'd seen sort of 2 diverse options on this building design. The one from August, which is a more, you know, random, interesting solution. And the second one that we saw today was a little more uniform and a little more, you know, traditional in terms of what you described as the podium, the body, and the corner tower. So I don't know if this is something that you are still investigating. I liked a lot about the direction of your first proposal. I think it addressed issues of a more diverse skyline on the building, a more interesting architectural assemblage. I'm sure either one would be successful. The first one, again, I really like the way the midsection of the building was being separated with the articulation of the glazing at the pool deck level, around the amenity level. And maybe that is some way to help really develop an interesting facade that faces to the east, which is going to be a very prominent elevation, especially driving down the hill from the downtown, looking at this building relative to the edge. I think, you know, the edge in itself is successful with some of its rooftop architectural massing elements, and turns back to this issue of diverse skyline. So give some consideration to that as you sort of develop this concept, whichever way you go with it. I do agree though with the color, going back to, you know, Brian's comments, if the dark colors on the first one were in a metal or a glass or some sort of material to reinforce that diversity in color, I think that would be successful. If it's just painted stucco, I'd be inclined to stay away from that. I like the lighter tones from your first iteration with the tans and some color deviation that helps reinforce some of the major elevation, you know, diagrammatic components that you're attempting there. So all I would say, I don't know, it's up to the board if you want to see this design again. I think there's really no resolved design solution. It's really, I think, in my mind, to approve today. I'd be happy to see it come back again, or we could leave it to staff, as we do a lot of times, to work with the applicant on this. So I'll leave it at that. I think it's a great project in terms of the site planning. We addressed the issues of the relationship to the rail component across the street. The relationships to the existing all works well. So I'm in favor. No problems with the variance requests. I think it's all very reasonable. And with that, I will stop. And if anyone would like to add or consider a motion, we can do so at this time.
And Mr. Chair, just so we're clear, we need 2 separate motions, one for the special review and one for the variances. And you'll need to read from the staff report to incorporate all of the conditions as well as the basis for approval.
That's correct. And whoever does it, I think there are a few conditions that might be added on to what's currently printed. Thank you. Stacey.
Also, Mr. Chair, I would like to mention that Mr. Gabriel will be a voting member as Mr. Cuevas and Mr. McPherson is absent.
So noted. Thank you. Okay, so with that,
Can I just add one thing, that both plans met the minimum code requirements in terms of planar breaks and the physical requirements of the code. We've been working with staff because Anna Marie and the urban designers felt that it was better to have a more traditional design, but we're okay with working with either side, but both buildings essentially are the same with different skin. Just wanted to put that out there.
That's understood. My comment was simply that I thought the first iteration was just far more dynamic and interesting. And, a lot of the buildings along Australian are really big, simple rectangles. And so any event,
We thought
just
the
my
same,
opinion.
and that was why we presented that original design, but it might have pushed the limits a little bit too far for staff to have the level of comfort.
Yeah. So again, it's whether we want to allow staff to work with the applicant and approve it, or if we want to, if it works with your time schedule to come back and show us the development next time and approve all the other components. Staff, how should we address that in terms of the architectural component relative to all the other items?
And we would like to definitely move forward today if at all possible. This is very important to the developer to have an approval in place before the end of the year.
I mean, I guess, this is kind of the issue I've been stuck on. We do approve things from time to time with, staff working on, some level of change. I'm comfortable moving it forward, provided it doesn't significantly differ from what we're really looking at today. And I kind of probably defer to, maybe Roger's expertise and even staff in terms of what they're looking for. Are we going to see a substantially different building? If we are, I think that needs to come back to us. If we're talking about minor kind of things, I'm comfortable moving it forward. That's kind of how I feel. I understand the applicant wants to get moving, but at the same time, it's our responsibility as a board to make a decision on something that is ultimately going to be on the ground, and we have to be able to stand by that. So be interested just to hear some input maybe from staff and maybe a bit more of Roger's opinion.
Mr. Chair, from staff perspective, we are comfortable with the project. If maybe the board can give us direction now with your comments that you feel like the first version also had a lot of good things. So maybe we can get direction which of the two versions you want us to continue working with the applicant. If you prefer us to work with them on refining the elements of the first version, or you want us to continue with the applicant refining the elements of the second version, so that way we can decide how to go with them. We don't want to go back and not being sure what direction we want to go.
Yeah, that's understood. I don't want us to design the building. I'd want the architecture to design the building and work with staff and listen to our opinions. So those are my opinions. I like some of the kinetic dynamic qualities of the first proposal. I'm sure either one can be developed well. I think either one needs to be more developed and more reinforced with the material decisions and some of the articulation. But again, we haven't been ultra critical of some of these components in the past. So I would just leave it to, those are my comments, and we can go forward and have you guys work with the applicant.
I don't think fundamentally we're going to see a significant diversion from the concepts that have come to us. We're not going to be looking at a totally different building. So in that sense, I'm okay. And I'm comfortable moving it forward. I'd be happy to let staff work with the applicant taking that direction.
Mr. Chair, I'm comfortable moving it forward with some modifications to the conditions. Joe seems amenable to that, and if they need any of our architectural input on the side, I know you'll make yourself available.
Yeah, we can, but I don't want to be the design committee, and I don't know if staff wants to. It's sort of responding to what the applicant is presenting. That's all.
I think we were at a comfort level with the new design, and I don't think there would be any significant changes. I think it was more we needed to see the materials, and we might have some recommendations, like you said, if some of the darker elements, glass or metal as opposed to stucco, those types of things. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or? I think that, we're comfortable with a level that it's not going to be a major significant change. if you're comfortable with it, I don't want to overdo conditions, or if we have something that if just to, for everyone's comfort level, if we have something of along the lines of, you know, major significant change has to come back. But I don't know if that's, I don't even know if that's necessary, because I think it would have to come back anyways, because it wouldn't be matching what the board approved. So I don't know if that condition would be even necessary.
Right.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, would you entertain a motion to approve the special review with amendments to condition I and the addition of a new condition regarding screening of the upper levels of the west facade of the garage?
Yeah, sure. I just asked back to this building design. I just wanted to ask a question to the applicant and the architect of, you know, since we've seen these two different schemes, which direction would they be inclined to pursue in terms of the one today and then the previous August iteration?
If I may, I think we've evolved the design, and I think we're heading in a direction that we're comfortable with, and you know, through working with staff, you know, I would rather tweak the design that we have now as opposed to going backwards to a design that we've abandoned. I mean, I think staff showed it just to show sort of the evolution of the design, but I don't think there's any desire to go back on our side.
Okay, understood. That's part of it. So yeah, let's we'll proceed that way. Just want to make sure you're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So Brian, So Brian, that sounds good then.
Okay, great. Mr. Chair, motion to approve the special review with modifications to staff conditions. Do I read it in now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the special review for DAC case number 20-08 as listed in the staff report dated December 9th, 2020. The following conditions are recommended. Modify the public open space to incorporate the following recommendations. A, incorporate more shade trees around the perimeter of the open lawn. B, provide for more access from the Clearwater Drive sidewalk east, the access drive sidewalk north, and from the circular parking area west into the area. C, rearrange some of the required seating to appropriate areas, including the large paved area along Clearwater Drive east of the open lawn. D, rearrange the planter beds within the area between the building facade and open lawn to prevent the unintended barrier between the lawn and building commercial spaces. E, provide through renderings or other means illustrative examples of how the space will be programmed. F, consider the incorporation of the AIPP requirement into the design. G, refine the treatment of the open lawn edge to ensure the space is integrated as one single public open space and maximize its use by people. H, the design of the public open space shall be brought back to the DAC at a later date once the design has been finalized. Regarding the building design, applicant shall, I, continue to work with staff on the exact, and I'd like to add, colors, materials, and placements of materials while maintaining the break of massing into a base, podium, and tower element. J, evaluate the expanding building base to a more appropriate dimension in relation to the overall building height. I'd like to add a condition that staff and the applicant are to work on the screening of the upper two levels of the west facade of the parking garage. Additional conditions. K, the applicant shall relocate the existing oak tree to water plant or another suitable location. L, the analysis of the access drive intersection at Australian Drive shall be evaluated for impact and any mitigation by the city traffic engineer. M, a public access easement shall be recorded for public use of the public open space. The motion is based upon a determination that the testimony presented.
I'm sorry, Brian. M is actually needs to be amended. Let me
correct. Sorry.
My screen.
M as amended by staff. Yeah, go ahead.
There you go.
Great. M, the public open space shall be open to the general public during established hours, example sunrise to sunset, with a sign posted at the most apparent entrances containing language that establishes such requirements meeting the definition of public open space. The motion is based upon a determination that the testimony presented at this hearing, along with the application submitted, constitute a preponderance of competent substantial evidence. The board hereby makes findings of fact that the special review requested satisfies all of the criteria of the City of West Palm Beach zoning and land development regulations. Article 2, Section 94-52, parens B, parens 2, period.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other commentary? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, none. The motion carries. Someone want to make a motion for the variance components?
I make a motion to approve granting of a variance. I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve DAC case number 20-08, a variance from table 4-12 to reduce the minimum required interior setback for ground and podium from 15 feet to 11.5 feet. And 2, a variance from table 4-12 to reduce the minimum required interior setback above the 7th floor from 20 feet to 11.5 feet. This variance approval is made conditional upon the restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards listed in the Planning Division staff report dated December 9th, 2020, that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the zoning code and consistent with the downtown master plan and the comprehensive plan of the City of West Palm Beach. This motion is based upon the testimony presented along with the application submitted, which constitutes competent, substantial evidence that the standards in section 94-38, parens D, parens 6 have been met.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? None. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion- Oh, I'm
Can I
sorry.
do a roll call vote? Some of your members are on mute.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
For the special review, Roger Jansen,
yes.
Nick Mihelich. Nick Mihelich.
Oh, I'm
Brian
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Brian Checkis.
Yes.
Stephen Graham.
Yes.
Johnny Lee Dizon. Johnny Lee Dizon. We can't hear you.
Issues.
Johnny Lee Dizon.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
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 Gregory Gabriel.
Yes.
For the variances, Roger Jansen,
Yes.
Nick Mihelich,
Yes.
Brian Checkis,
Yes.
Stephen Graham,
Yes.
Johnny Lee Dizon,
Yes.
Gregory Gabriel.
Yes.
Your vote passes 6-0.
Okay, it's all approved. Thank you all. Thanks, staff, applicant, and all the residents at the Edge One for your participation. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Joe. Bye.
You're welcome.
Love Joe.
John, you're going to set up the next one, 20-07?
Yeah, I'm bringing in people now. Just 1 second.
All right, thank you.
And that should be everybody. You just need to unmute, turn on your video.
Okay, case 20-07, request by Keith Spino of Spino Work on behalf of Ristorante Figlie. If we could go ahead and get them sworn in, Stacy.
Sure. Keith, can you turn on your video?
Trying. There we go.
Great. Please raise your right hand if you intend to speak. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So staff, we're going to start, go ahead with the applicant first. There we go.
The applicant will do the presentation first.
Did you guys say you wanted me to go forward, Anna Maria?
Yes, Keith, you have to go first.
Okay, all right. So good morning or afternoon, everyone. I'm Keith Spino with Spino O'Rourke, and I have Todd Herbst with Elizabetta's and Frank Navarro, the owner of the property, both on the call as well. I think I'll be able to address most of the comments. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the property. It's Flagler Banyan Square. It's I'm right now on the screen is the corner of Banyan Olive where the Oversea apartment building is. Just east of that is the Ben Hotel. And then just east of that is the property that we're talking about. I know most of you are very familiar with this area. You probably go by it all the time. And the project has made great progress and is getting really close to being open. So I think everybody's probably really familiar with Elizabetta's on the first floor overlooking Flagler Drive in the park to the north. It's on the corner of Banyan and Narcissus, and then Flagler and Banyan. The area that we're talking about is the corner of, on the west side of the building is Narcissus, and on the south side or the bottom of the page where my cursor is Banyan. And you know, I know a lot of the people, the question was, well, what are we doing differently? So we previously got approved an area to enclose and store the dumpsters and the back of house service areas, some of the areas that need to be outside for Elizabetta's. It's under construction. It's 99% built. And the area that we see here in gray is a concrete slab where all of this stuff takes place. What we had approved, though, is this dotted red line right here is an area that is 16 feet from the back of curb, which is a requirement in the downtown master plan. And the only thing we're asking to do is to take the little dotted red line, move it out 5.5 feet so that the enclosed area behind the fence includes all the area where the concrete slab currently is. I'll show you a couple of pictures which make it a little bit easier to understand. This is the area that we're talking about right here behind these bushes. It's kind of interesting. Since this picture was taken a month ago, the owner has already continued to increase the landscaping installation. And so I took a picture this morning. Can everybody see that picture? The one that I just popped up? Okay.
Yes.
So this is an area as of this morning. So you see the face of the building. We have a bunch of grease traps and a concrete slab and a little connection to the sidewalk. We have an existing Calusia hedge. All of that is existing.
We're seeing the previous picture, not the one from this morning.
All right. Sorry, let me kind of share that. How's that? Can you see the new picture with the door to the kitchen and the, okay. So this is a picture that we took this morning. And so the concrete slab that you see here, including the little connection right here to the sidewalk, all of that is as per originally approved. The only difference is that the fence we had originally approved, if installed at the 16 feet, would be about 5 feet back from the backside of the Calusia hedge. And so all we're asking to do is take the fence from right about in front of that manhole cover and just move it to the edge of the concrete, still behind the Calusia hedge. And then I have one more photo. Did you see the next photo, Anna Maria? Did that switch?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then this was a really good example because the tree that I showed you in the first photo that was installed previously has now been replaced by a tree that is much more substantial. And it's exciting because all of this is going to help screen this service area even more. And so again, to let everybody know, so where the fence was previously approved was right here. And the concerns that we have are a couple. The number one is it's just a really tight area to really manage and control the service side of the outside of the building. And all we're asking to do is take the fence from here and move it to here. When you look at it from the street, you will still be behind the Calusia hedge. We did review staff's recommendations, and we do agree that the fence will be no taller than 6 feet, which I'm guessing in a matter of a couple of months, the hedge will be at least 6 feet tall, and you will not be able to see any of the fence other than the gate. And we've also agreed that the fence will be an epay wood, which is what we had shown. And let me go back to, can you see now the picture, Anna Maria, with the Ipe wood fence? Or
No, not yet, Keith.
Okay, how's that? Now do you see it? Okay, so that's a picture of the landscaping a month ago. We now have much bigger tree here, much bigger tree here. The Calusia is getting taller, and this would be the Ipe fence behind the hedge. And what we'd like to communicate is the number one reason is to really control everything behind this fence in the little bit more space, still keeping the fence behind the hedge. The better we think by working closely with Todd and his team is that it'll be more successful. It will not look any different whether the fence is here or whether the fence is 5 feet back. It's still behind the hedge. A couple of other little things that we've done on this project that Frank and Todd and our team were really adamant about, but we put a trench drain in the ground so that the things that happen inside the service area are controlled and collected so they're not slowly, leaking out onto the property. We also have some great assurances, which is Todd and his team, and also Frank Navarro, who owns the property, has a team that every morning I see Tony, one of Frank's guys, walking around this property, picking up leaves, picking up trash, emptying garbage cans. And so, we're excited. Our office is just right down the street. And, I think a couple of you know me, it drives me crazy when there's trash on these streets. I'm out blowing trash myself all the time. My wife and kids just moved into the overseas for the next 6 months because we're renovating our house. So I'm very passionate about keeping this place looking as good as everybody else is. So I think that's it. We think it's a potentially huge improvement on the ability to maintain the property, and we agree with all the staff's recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spina. Does staff have any follow-up commentary on this or would like to make their presentation?
Yes, we have a presentation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, please proceed. Thank you.
There. Mr. Spina,
I stopped sharing.
Okay, just to go over, this is a request specifically from a variance from Article 4, Section 94-109 of the zoning and land development regulations to allow a dumpster enclosure to encroach into the minimum setback along Banyan Boulevard. And that's why the variance is needed. The property, as Mr. Spina mentioned, is along Banyan Boulevard, which has a primary street designation. The previous approval included the service yard to locate the grease traps and the dumpsters is these areas explained by Mr. Spina. So the red line indicates where the original fence was approved, that basically it was set back 16 feet from the back of curb in compliance with the minimum setback requirements. As I took these pictures also a couple of days ago, so you can see the back of house equipment that is necessary for the operation of the restaurant. So they have heaters, the grease traps, and other equipment in addition to the dumpsters that were originally approved. So, and probably the restaurant owner can go over in more explanation about all the back of house that is necessary for the operation of restaurant this size. So it seems the original area was not enough to accommodate all this equipment. So the main point of the request is the setback is 16 feet from the back of curb. This is this yellow line, and basically is to allow the applicant to encroach with the service area and the fence that will enclose it into that setback for a minimum an area of 5 feet 6 inches into the minimum required setback. So that's the location of the new fence. It's an encroachment of 5 feet 6 inches, as I mentioned, and the fence, it was proposed as 7 feet by the applicant as an eBay wood fence. Basically, the reason for this is Section 94-109 definition of minimum requirements under setback standards prescribe that the area within the minimum setback along the street designation shall be left free of any structure higher than 42 inches, including streetscape signage, lighting, and other public improvements. So the fence, the reason for this regulation is because we wanted to create a comfortable streetscape for pedestrians. So this is a picture of the current configuration of the space. The area within the setback is supposed to have, is intended to have street lights, decorative street lights, enhanced landscaping, and street trees along the curb. As you can see, the project already has all those elements. And as Mr. Spina explained, it already has a hedge on the back of the sidewalk. The fence will basically be screened by the hedge that is already installed. Staff is in support of this application, and I'm going to explain a little bit of the reasons that will support the standards for compliance. The service yard location is the best location in this case for this property due to the importance that was given to the new open space on the north side of the building, and that is the area where the restaurant is going to have the outdoor seating, and the open area is the new public open space that the project created. The prominence or the importance was given to that space, so definitely the back of house was identified along Banyan Boulevard, despite Banyan is a primary street and it has a pedestrian designation. The less prominent location was unfortunately designated as that location, but it was clear that we could not locate the back of house for the restaurant along the frontage, along the public open space, because that was the comfort or the quality of that space was the priority one in the design of this building. The building is also a narrow building, so the back of house could not be located anyway inside the structure. It's a very tight space, and that responds also to requirements from the city for the creation of the public open space. In addition, the fence that the applicant is proposing to install is a requirement from the code to screen the dumpsters. They could not have basically the back of house and the dumpsters in particular without a fence screening it. The reality is that the regulation will allow them to do a 42-inch high fence within the setback, but that will definitely not comply with the screening requirements from the code for dumpsters and will defeat the purpose of screening and the back of house equipment. So based on that, staff has considered all those elements and is recommending approval for this variance from section 94-109 of the zoning and land development regulations to allow a 6-foot high fence to encroach 5 feet 6 inches into the minimum setback along Banyan Boulevard, based on the finding that the petition meets all the 10 variance standards as outlined by Article 2, Section 9438D6 of the zoning and land development regulation. Staff is recommending 4 conditions. First one is that the fence and gate shall be high quality, eBay wood or something similar, but high quality, so the aesthetic appearance of the fence is evident in case something happens with the hedges. The fence and gate shall be the minimum necessary to screen the dumpster equipment, but in no case more than 6 feet in height. We think that is enough to screen the dumpsters. The hedge shall be maintained to screen the proposed fence, and the service area shall not be used for outdoor storage. And this last part is important for us. We understand there's the equipment that has to be in there, but we don't want to have in that area storage for broken chairs or any other equipment that it's also happening as part of the operation of the restaurant. That concludes the staff presentation, and we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ana Maria. That's very, very clear. John, do we have any comments from anyone in the public on this?
Yeah, there was a comment written into the Q&A of Zoom. It was a couple hours ago before the presentation, but it said, concerning the decision to have a dumpster on the ever busier and important Banyan Street. I represent hundreds of people, and the person's name is Nicole, / neighbors who live and work using the street, and it is the only way daily to enter our offices and condo homes, which are buildings at 100 and 101 North Clematis Street, Waterfront Clematis, and the Florida Crystals office building. We are seriously opposed to having any dumpster on this busy and ever-increasing high-traffic important thoroughfare. A dumpster will take up very needed parking spaces on Banyan, create an eyesore, but also importantly, vehicles visual blockage at the corner of Flagler and Banyan that will get more congested as it is on a short and narrow block from Flagler to the new Ben Hotel, and greatly hinder emergency vehicle access to the Ben, Waterfront Clematis Condominium, Florida Crystal's office building, especially during the green market in the many evenings. That was their comments, but again, that was before the presentation. So,
Okay. Thank you. There's none others?
no, there's no other indication of anyone wishing to speak or written communication.
Okay, we'll then close the public comment portion of this case. Can staff just respond to that in terms of what was originally approved? If a dumpster was already approved there regardless?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the dumpster location was identified on that spot, so we're just approving the expansion of the dumpster or the back of house area and allowing the applicant to have a fence within the setback. When the project was approved in the site plan, the location was coordinated with public utilities and they felt that was an appropriate location. The dumpster is going to be probably rolled out to the street for the truck to be picked up.
Okay, I think that's understood. Does anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant or staff with regards to this variance request?
I had one.
Anyone? Brian, Michael, Stephen, Nick?
No comment, Mr. Chair. It's a no-brainer.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments?
No.
Motion to approve.
I just have one question for staff. And in these situations, and I understand buildings, things change, and as you develop a building plan, mechanical requirements change, et cetera. How do you prevent this in the future so that we don't have these situations where something is approved, it gets built, and then the applicant's asking for forgiveness after it's already been completed, and it sets a possible precedent for a situation where people can wind up asking for the same request in the future. That's my only question to staff on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you are totally right. Staff is on that also trying to, and that was one of my concerns when I spoke with Kit about this. We discussed, and I definitely didn't want it to bring to the board for the variance and clarify what are the standards and how they meet it, because we don't want to definitely set a precedent that a dumpster enclosure can be located within the minimum setback because of the character of the public realm that we are trying to create. In this particular case, the landscape and the building is actually set back more than the minimum, and that is what allowed the back of house to be located in there. The landscape is sufficient to screen the area that the impact will be very minimal into the public realm. So we are comfortable with that, but we hear you. We are trying to pay every time more attention to the earliest stages of the design to catch all these elements on the early stages.
Okay, that's understood. And I think this is a unique enough situation in terms of a site condition, limited yard areas, given the exposure of the building to the park. So I have no problem with this request. And I think it was handled accordingly with the appropriate fence and landscape design. So with that, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second?
Brian, do you want to go ahead and identify the conditions and compliance with the code for your motion?
I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the DAC case number 20-07 as listed in the staff report dated December 9th, 2020 as follows. A variance from section 94-109 of the ZLDRs to allow a fence to encroach 5 feet 6 inches into the minimum 16 feet setback along Banyan Boulevard with the following conditions. 1, fence and gate shall be high quality IPE wood. 2, fence and gate shall be the minimum necessary to screen the dumpster equipment, but in no case more than 6 feet in height. 3, hedge shall be maintained to screen proposed fence. 4, service areas shall not be used for outdoor storage. Motion is based upon a determination that the testimony presented at this hearing, along with the application submitted and substantial evidence The board hereby makes findings of fact that the petition meets all 10 variance standards as outlined by Article 2, Section 94-38, parens D, parens 6 of the ZLDRs.
Okay, thanks. That's clear. So there's the motion that it's been read in and there's been a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unmute yourselves for the vote.
Aye. Are you gonna call? Okay.
Any in opposition? Seeing none, okay, no opposed. So the motion carries. All right, thank you all for the presentation, execution of the refinements to the building. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Moving forward, I guess what I would say, any continued cases, no code revision cases, no, let's see, unfinished business. Anyone? Anna Maria, do we have anything to discuss? I know we're probably going to go back to your comments from the section we skipped previously.
No, Mr. Chair, just go back to the urban design report.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your help. I mean, I know at the end of the year, we used to do every year end of the year report to tell you what we have been working on and what has happened this year. This year, I think, is special because we only not have the work environment, but the environment that we are all living. It has been a challenging year for everybody. We are grateful for our help this year, and we feel empathy for those that are not as fortunate and have suffered some loss throughout the year. Having said that, we have had actually a great year for the planning department. We have continued working on projects and moving forward with the progress to create a great city and a great downtown area. I want to go over first of the projects that have been completed this year and are open to the public and function and making part of our great downtown area. First one is the HSS facility that was recently completed earlier this year at 300 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. It's a 56,000 square feet medical facility that was a new construction across from the Good Samaritan Hospital. This is significant because this is the location of an old building that was vacant and creating an eyesore for the city for, I think, more than 10 years. So this was a great success for us to see this the old building being torn down and the new building come up, and is now occupied with a state-of-the-art facility, medical facility, and attracting, serving the community and attracting new people to come to our downtown for services. So this is a great addition for our downtown area, and is also like in line of pushing the redevelopment of the whole downtown towards the north along Dixie Corridor and the Olive Avenue Corridor. Another great project was the 302 Datura. It was a renovation and addition created on the previous Bank of Atlantic, I think it was the name. It's a 38,000 square feet office that attracted new employment to the downtown. Again, this was a renovation. This is a picture of the old building that also was vacant and abandoned for many, many years in the downtown. Now it has been completely renovated with state-of-the-art offices and fully occupied. The other buildings completed this year, we have the Canopy Hotel and the Flagler Banyan Square that I'm going to go into detail on the awards. So these two are nominated for the Urban Design Awards for this year. Another project that was completed this year that is close to my heart is definitely Clematis streetscape renovation. After 3 years of working in this project in phases, it was finally completed. I mean, the last construction phase is currently undergoing on the 600 block of Clematis, but the rest of the street is all done. Even the fountain was also renovated and completed and is already open to the public. So this was a great project for us. We spent a lot of time working on the design, and we think it's a success how it expanded the pedestrian realm in the
for this important street in the city, to the point that we have actually, it was perfect timing how the sidewalks were expanded with the COVID-19 emergency. The residents were able to expand their outdoor seating and occupy the additional area and serve their customers in a more safe and comfortable way. I like to show this screen. We did a presentation to the CNU a couple of months ago about the whole project, and we prepared this slide, and it's really telling of how the downtown has evolved and how our priority for the city has given priority definitely to the creating a space for people. You can see the image on the bottom show how the design of Clematis Street was divided in the 1970s, where 70% of the streetscape or the public realm was dedicated to cars, and only 28% was dedicated to people, with sidewalks that only were 10 feet. The rest of the space or the section was dedicated for vehicular use. In the 1990s, when we did the first streetscape project on Clematis, that was modified slightly, and then it reduced the areas for dedicated for cars to 63%. And increase the width of the sidewalks. But then the project that it was just completed actually reversed the proportion substantially, and now we have 55% of the street of the public realm dedicated for people and only 45% dedicated for cars. This is a substantial improvement and actually sets basically a precedent of how the construction of the public realm is given priority in the downtown and in the city. We think this has been very successful for the city to see the transformation, and we have received a very positive response from everybody for the Clematis streetscape. On other notes, we have worked on some regulatory changes. The Northwest Neighborhood District changes that you saw at the beginning of the year were finally adopted by the City Commission on September 21st, 2020. The Department of Economic Opportunity issued no comments related to the important state resources and facilities within their scope of review. And the changes were adopted by the Commission, allowing the grant project that you will see probably early next year to come in front of you, and also adjusting all the massing and requirements for the new buildings to go along Banyan Boulevard. So this also will trigger a lot of changes in that neighborhood. Projects under construction that are moving forward. The 550 Quadrille is moving forward. We have received notice from Mr. Green that the construction of the towers will resume shortly with the combination of office, hotel, and the residential. The 360 Rosemary office project is also moving forward, and they are expected to have a temporary CO by April next year. Other projects under construction, the Microunits is a 625 South Olive Avenue. 695 South Olive Avenue is between Trinity Place and Tanglewood on Olive Avenue. It's a new project, 8 stories, 217 new residential units. They are most of them are micro units, so very small units that are going to be rentals. And that is already under construction. I believe they are already on the structure on the 3rd floor around that. The Flagler Station project is the new project that will come on the corner of Banyan and Tamarind. The project, the board saw this project and approved their special review a couple of months ago. They are moving forward and very close to start construction. That will be 93 units. And we are also moving ahead. The CRA has funded the construction of the linear park on the north side of this project. The Daytura Street, 445 Daytura Street is also a new project that the board also saw a couple of months ago. They are starting construction also. They are clearing the site right now. It's going to have 20 memory care units, 34 assisted living facility units, and then 100 independent living. And that will be located on the block on the north side of Daytura between Quadrille and Dixie. Also a great addition, replacing an existing surface parking lot. So that will be a good improvement for the area. We have also under construction big things in the Northwest neighborhood. The CRA has very busy working on the reconstruction of the Sunset Lounge and the new addition that will improve the capacity of the facility and have bring back this important community facility and the history of the neighborhood. At the same time, they're working on the construction of the Heart and Soul Park. That is 0.9 acre, totally new park in the area with a lot of historic components of the whole music-related history of the neighborhood and tied to the Sunset Lounge. So we expect these two projects will be completed by summer next year. It will be a very, very good new addition to the Northwest neighborhood. We are working very hard creating a city for people, and we hope you are happy with the progress that you are seeing in the downtown. We keep, Liz and I and Rick and all the staff, we work every day to make our downtown a better place, and we appreciate your support to all the efforts that we are doing and your contribution on this. Having said that, I want to now announce the Downtown West Palm Beach Urban Design Awards. These awards were some initiative that we created 2 years ago. It was initiated by staff to highlight those projects that have substantially contributed to the enhancement of the downtown West Palm Beach as a place for people. We take projects that have been completed in the previous 2 years, and staff will nominate the best, 2 of the best, and then the board will vote and recommend a winner for this. For this year, we have nominated 2 first, the Canopy Hotel is a new project by Driftwood Capital. It's a 13-story new hotel at the corner of Trinity Place and Dixie Highway. Is all finished and in operation. They were unfortunately opened the hotel, I think, in March this year. So the hotel opened and then quickly closed because of the COVID, and then reopened again, I think at the end of July. They are now fully functionally, and they have 150 rooms, 4,156 square feet restaurant on the ground floor, and a pool deck with a restaurant also on the top, and they have meeting rooms. They have a very innovative mechanical parking system with 75 parking spaces to accommodate the parking needs for the hotel in this really small 0.5 acre site. It's a picture of the ground floor restaurant that is open to the public, and then a couple of views for the pool deck on the top, and the view from Dixie. This is a good example of an infill project. This is a really tight site. We just have a quarter of this block on the south side to be filled, and then we'll have one complete new, very, very intense block in the urban context. The second project that we staff wanted to nominate this year is the Flagler Banyan Square by Navarro Laurie. It's a mixed-use project, 251 residential units, 19,054 square feet of commercial space on the main building on Olive, and then 11,493 square feet of a restaurant and office on the waterfront. That is the project that you just reviewed for variance for the Elisabeta's restaurant that is close to be completed. Has a parking garage with 483 parking spaces that are shared between the 3 buildings, and a 210-room hotel that is the Ben Hotel, also opened this year, and now it's fully functional and getting guests back into their project. In addition, this project has a 20,000 square feet public open space. This project was a partnership between the city and the developer. As you remember, the main block west of Narcissus was the site where the old city hall was located. The building was demolished and the land sold to the developer. And then the Helen Wilkes building, that is the one that was occupying the site where the park and the restaurant are now, was acquired by the CRA, and then was leased to the developer in a partnership for them to locate the restaurant, activate the new open space that was a requirement of the deal, and create a brand new public open space for the community. We think this project is a great asset for us, a new waterfront restaurant that we don't not have that many, and also extending the development towards the north and connecting the open spaces on the north side. This is a picture of the residential building from the west. You can see the water on the east, and then the hotel is on the back of the residential. This is a picture of the hotel, very good hotel. It has also 2 restaurants, one on the ground floor and one on the pool deck on the top, with meeting rooms for events that will also be spilling over on the waterfront area on the new area park. So having said that, we have tallied the votes from the board members, and we have a winner for this year, and it's Flagler Banyan Square. So we have congratulations to Navarro Lowry for this great project. We have very happy with this project and the new things that are happening with this in this area due to this project. That concludes the staff presentation. I think Frank Navarro is still with us, so I don't know if he wants to. He left. Not sure if he left. Maybe
He's not on.
Oh, maybe he left. So that was a great project. We were very happy to have that project on, and kind of congratulate. We will have a certificate that will be signed by the mayor and by the board chair, and we'll send it to the applicant. That concludes the staff presentation and the summary for this year.
All right, Anna Maria, thank you. That was a great summary. Really appreciate it. And I think I can speak for all of us that we really appreciate everything you guys do as a staff to work hard on all of these projects, making it a great city. So Liz, Anna Maria, Rick, thanks again. And it was very exciting to see. Probably the only good thing so far that's come out of COVID is the advancement and the acceleration of the Clematis project. It really turned out great. So thank you all.
Well, thank you all for all your help and support.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or any other unfinished business? No. Okay.
Okay. So.
Okay. If there isn't, then I guess we'll adjourn this meeting, and happy holidays to everyone, and enjoy your time with your family and enjoy the cool weather, and we'll see you next year.
Happy holidays to everybody. See you next year.
Happy holidays.
Bye.